Lunch.
You are looking live.
Live at lunch. Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
What the hell's going on out here?
Now, here's Jimmy Ott and Charles Hannegriff.
Yeah, for some reason or another, you sound a little taller on radio.
Is it live? Is it live? Is it live? Is it live?
From Rufino's on Highland Road, welcome to the Friday edition of Live at Lunch, which we call Lock of the Week Friday, presented by Tex Morris and Edward Jones Investments. Charles Hannegriff along with Richard Dixon, Max Gotro, Jimmy Ott will be with us later on in the show. Tons of our analysts with lots of picks for the weekend and a lot of stuff with LSU and A&M. Rich, how you doing, man?
Doing good.
You, a lot of people, this morning were upset about, Syracuse throwing 5 interceptions or the Vikings not getting a face mask call. You were upset about a Hail Mary that came in last night.
Yeah, it was a big game out in Central last night for 6U flag football. We had the Steelers versus the Panthers. And
your team is the
Steelers.
Okay.
We were number one. We've only lost 2 times this year, and it's to the same team. Second one coming last night. We had them beat 13-6. Last play of the game, 4th and forever, and they throw a bomb. Guy catches it, runs down. We're like, okay, we still up by 1. Let's just, stop the extra point. We're good. No, they go for 2, and they get it. And it was a tough loss.
Who you got coaching defensive backs out there?
Well, I'm going to have to talk to Brandon about that.
Knock it down, man.
Got to get up there and make a play. I will say it was a hell of a catch. The guy kind of mossed one of our guys. It was good. But
40 yards for 7-year-olds is pretty. That's a pretty deep ball.
I don't think he threw it 40. He scored it after 40. Maybe threw it 20. But
okay.
It was a big play. It was a good game. But you know what? We're going to see him in the playoffs soon.
Okay. Well, shake it off. Got some other big games.
That's
to talk
the only
about.
loss I can take.
I need you to get it out of your system because you look pretty frustrated.
That's the only loss I can take. LSU's got to win now.
Okay. Well, I think there's a lot of people hoping the same thing. What do you think, A&M?
I think A&M.
Let me start with a real basic question because I got like 100 of them. But real bad. What do you think, A&M?
I think A&M is a good defense. They've typically had good defense, good front. I think that they're still figuring out who they are on offense. I mean, they know that they're a run team. They got the running game going, but the quarterbacks. I mean, you've seen 3 versions of Wegman the last couple of times he got a start. He had an unbelievable game against Missouri where he only incompletes 4 passes, kind of moves them down the field methodically. Then you've seen the Notre Dame version where he looked awful. He looked like confused, didn't look like he knew what was going on. And you've seen Mississippi State where you're just in the middle. So, I mean, I don't really have a good read on who Wegman is yet.
He's up and down. There are games where he looks fantastic, like the game against Missouri. His first 2 years, he threw 2 interceptions. He played 4 games last year before he got hurt. He played, I think it was 7 games his freshman year. And it's been, I wrote earlier this week, it's not quite good Bo, bad Bo, but it's got some characteristics. Like his freshman year, he played really well against LSU, and they won that game. He played really bad against Auburn, and they lost that game. Last year, he played really good in the 2 rental wins. He didn't have to do anything against Auburn because they won that game defensively, and it was a pretty modest game. And he's pretty erratic in that game that they lost against Miami. This year, there are games where he looks great. The Missouri game, he couldn't have looked any better. He completed 82% of his passes, and he averaged 12.5 yards an attempt. That's video game numbers. On the other hand, against Mississippi State, he threw 2 interceptions. Against Notre Dame, he threw 2 interceptions. Those 4 interceptions are twice as many as he threw in the 2 seasons combined, although he didn't play the full year. So I'm not sure exactly what you're going to get out of him. But I know exactly what you're going to get out of Le'Veon Moss.
Yeah.
Moss is arguably the best running back in the Southeastern Conference. Now, I asked Max. I did this little drill with him before we started the show because I wanted to say that Le'Veon Moss is the best back that LSU has seen because I believe that. I can make a case that he's the best back in the Southeastern Conference right now. Here's my argument, okay? Well, let me ask you, what are you when you think of Moss? Because he's a local
Moss
kid. He
is
played
good.
at Struma.
No, he's
Okay,
a
we
Struma
know
kid.
who he is.
He's a guy that we wanted. When I've watched him carry the ball, he's dynamic.
He averaged. Okay, so I said, is he better than Henry Parrish at Ole Miss? He averages on the same amount of carries about a half a yard per carry better. Is he better than Jaquindon Jackson that they saw for Arkansas last week? About 3/4 of a yard per carry better than him. Is he better than Rocket Sanders, who's got probably a bigger name because of his time at Arkansas? He's 2 full yards a carry better than Rocket Sanders, who I consider to be a pretty good back. Who else do you like? Do you like Trevor Etienne? He's a yard and a half better than Etienne. Okay, this guy to me is what A&M is built on. No. All right, Wegman, okay, up and down, I get it. Maybe great, maybe terrible, maybe somewhere in between. Moss is going to be there.
Yeah.
And for LSU to win this game, Moss can't go for $142.
You can't let A-Chain do what he did 2 years ago.
Thank you. That's a perfect. And you mentioned that game. We were talking before the show that game still sticks in your craw. Why?
Yeah, it's just because we had so much on the line right there. And I know you can kind of even it out with saying, well, we had the SEC wrapped up going to the championship game.
The reason I said that, I don't think it helped the mentality.
Yeah.
I think it gave them a little bit of, cushion, if you will.
That on top of A&M had 4 wins on the season or whatever it was. They were a bad football team. They didn't seem very prepared for that game, or it seemed like they overlooked it. But when you had such a good football team coming off the high you had, with everything you want in front of you and going to lay an egg on the road, I mean, that's never a good feeling. And right now I feel like we're in a similar situation. We don't have anything necessarily wrapped up because it's not a West or an East this year, but we have everything we want in front of us. We got to go out there and win to keep it going, and we're on the road again. LSU
is attempting to eliminate 2 words from their vocabulary when November starts, and those 2 words are "we need."
Yeah.
It's the team that wins this game doesn't need any help. It'll be out in front of them. They'll have the leg up on going to Atlanta. They'll have the leg up on going to the playoffs. You won't have to sit there unless you lose to this point saying, well, we need Texas to lose, or we need Alabama to lose, or we need Tennessee to.
We just got to take care of business.
Take care of your business. LSU will be favored in the 4 games that they got left. A&M has got 2 SEC games on the road, plus they got Texas going to College Station. Their schedule is considerably tougher. And it's crazy to say that when you look at LSU's November schedule. If I had told you in any year except this one that LSU will see Alabama, Florida, and Oklahoma in November, you'd be like,
and you're
man,
worried about Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I'm more worried about Vanderbilt than I am Oklahoma at this point. But no, think about those 3 brands.
Yeah, I mean
in any other
murder's row in the past.
I can't think of a year. Maybe in 19. I guess they would have been favored in 19 if the Alabama game had been in Tiger Stadium. They would have been a small favorite, but they'd have been favored. I can't think of a year besides that when they had the greatest football team in the history of the sport that they would have been in such an advantageous position against those 3 programs. But here we are. LSU's rush defense against Le'Veon Moss. In conference games, LSU is 12th out of 16 in yards per game allowed. Do you think that is an accurate statistic, or do you think that it is overblown because of what happened against South Carolina?
Conference games only?
Conference games. It's only 3.
I think it's overblown by a few big plays. I mean, you got the 2 big runs with South Carolina. You got the 51-yarder against Ole Miss. The things that we've not let people just go up and down the field on us methodically, play by play. We've given up big plays, and that's what hurts the numbers.
You can't take out those three plays, of course. If Hester's listening, he's throwing stuff at his radio right now. But they feel like a better run-stop unit than the 12th best in the league right now.
Yeah, no. I feel way better than the statistics.
I think the statistic is a little bit – I don't want to say it's skewed because you got to count all that stuff, but I feel like they're playing better than that right this second.
You got almost 200 yards off those 3 carries. That'll skew the numbers pretty well.
Ah, there you go. 200 yards total. If you took 200 yards out of this, you would have the best rushing defense
So you got
in the conference by
big
far.
plays.
You know, if you eliminated 75 pounds from me, I could go model. You know, you can't do that, but this is what they're tasked with. I think Le'Veon Moss is one of the biggest keys to this game, and I know that the emphasis will be on Wegman, and I understand why. I think LSU will win this game because they are better at the quarterback position. But Moss is the guy that scares me.
Well, you got to stop the run on this one. If you can put it all on Wegman and make him go win a game, I think that plays to our advantage.
And what's a reasonable thing to hold Moss to? Let's look at what he has done on an individual game basis this year. Notre Dame was the one team that sort of held him in check. It took 20 carries to get to 70 yards. But every other game until the last one, he was averaging well over 6 yards per carry. In fact, against Missouri, he averaged over 11 yards per carry. In that Arkansas game in Jerry World, he averaged 9 yards per carry. Now, last week against Mississippi State, they held him to 17 carries, 65 yards, 2 touchdowns. I'd take that right now, including the 2 touchdowns, because I don't think they're going to shut A&M out or anything.
No.
You give me 17 for 65, that's an average of just under 4 yards a carry, and 2 touchdowns and 1 catch for 11 yards. I'll take that right now.
If you keep him under 75 yards, my thing is if we get out to a good start and make them start having to throw the ball where they can't rely on the run game. So don't let them get into a rhythm where he's pounding the ball all day long. They're keeping the clock. They're not having to go out there and press to make a big play. If LSU can get up early and make them have to throw the ball and push the ball and speed up their game, I think that plays right into our hands.
Notre Dame beat Texas A&M in College Station by 10 a couple of weeks before they lost to Northern Illinois. They blew out then A&M blew out McNeese. Who cares? They beat Florida. Florida had a really bad September. They're playing much better now, but they had a really bad September. They struggled with Bowling Green, who's not a bad MAC team, but not somebody you should be struggling with. They won that game by 6.
Yeah.
They beat Arkansas in a game by 4 points. That's always one of those kind of crazy games up at Jerry World. Arkansas had the ball with a chance to go down the field and win the game. Green turned the ball over. A&M ran the clock out. Could have gone either way. And then last week against Mississippi State, they were – I would say they're mostly in control of the game. Mississippi State never went away. Arkansas, A&M was going to win the game. I felt pretty confident. I wouldn't have completely ruled out State making a last-second comeback, but they controlled that game. But by no means did they outclass Mississippi State last weekend. Maybe they were looking ahead a little bit to this game. I don't know. But that game was okay by their standard. You go on the road and you get a win, kind of like LSU, South Carolina. Good. Chalk it up. I don't want to buy stop points. The Missouri game's the outlier. We were sitting there, Jimmy and I, at the Beau Rivage, waiting for that game to start. We didn't think Wegman was going to start. He did. We thought that was risky given how A&M was playing at the time. And he came out and looked fabulous. And Missouri came out and looked terrible. And A&M blows them out by 31 points. I'm still not sure how good Missouri is. Yeah. They're going to Tuscaloosa extremely shorthanded this week. I thought Auburn was going to beat them last week, and Cook takes 2 quarters off, comes back and beats them because Auburn can't get out of their own way right now. But that game was the outlier. They looked fantastic. I didn't see them look that good in any of the other 6 games, but they're 6-1.
Yeah,
and there's something to be said for that.
Man, look, very similar to how we got our season started. We both lost an opener to a not out of conference team. We've gotten better. I still think LSU's a better team, but the advantage is with them playing in Kyle Field, which is second back-to-back SEC road game.
Both teams lost the opener non-conference. Both teams won 2 one-score games, so one play flips it. Both teams have beaten what was then a top 10 SEC team. Both teams have blown out an SEC team. For A&M, that's the same game with Missouri, and then LSU wins the game last week by 24. So there's a lot of similarities in their resumes to this point. We'll see if that holds up tomorrow. We're at Rufino's. Restaurant opens at 11 a.m. We'll be telling you about the specialty menu that is there every Friday. And, of course, we hope that you can make it in your plans to come out here and not too early to start making your plans. It's always a big weekend when Bama comes to town. That's in a couple of weeks. We're on Highland Road, just off of I-10 here at Rufino's. Log of the Week Friday, presented by Tex Morris at Edward Jones Investments on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
It's Lock of the Week Friday, presented by Tex Morris of Edward Jones Investments. Now, back to Live at Lunch from Rufino's on Highland Road on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Back here at Rufino's Live at Lunch. Come on by. The restaurant opens at 11 o'clock. Man, chef's got a good weekly feature specials today. Lobster risotto on your appetizer features today, along with the Italian sausage manicotti. That's with the Italian cheese blend marinara and the herb breadcrumbs. Entree features today, pan-seared halibut, the blue cheese crusted filet, and for dessert, praline crinkle cake, which sounds really good.
Yeah.
Praline cake, period.
There's some things I need to do after the show, but I kind of want to stay.
Praline crinkle cake sounds pretty good to me. Let's talk about Garrett Nussmeier here for a second. Last game, he got C.J. Daniels back, and Daniels ended up having 7 catches, which was an LSU high for him. The game before that, though, he didn't have C.J. Daniels, and they were still able to spread the ball around. I look at LSU's top 4 receivers: Lacey, 36 catches; Taylor, 36 catches; Anderson, 33 catches; Daniels, 27 catches; and Durham and Thomas combined have 25 catches. And this is before you add in Trey'Dez Green, who is now a part of this. And it just seems to me like he's got a lot of options without having to be overly dependent on any of them. So if Daniels is limited tomorrow, and we haven't even gotten to Chris Hilton, I know what Kelly said. I'll believe it when I see it. But, and I'm not let me be clear about this, because I said this before the show, and, Max is kind of like, well, hey, I'm not Hilton's hurt, okay? There's nothing he can do about that. I'm not saying that, he's not trying to get – I know he's trying to get back, okay? He's just got one of those bodies that is, prone to injury. He's missed some time here. He's a slender guy. He's low body fat. That's why he's as fast as he is. There are injuries. So if he gets back, great. If he doesn't, well, they've learned to play without him. But what I wanted to get to is the number of options that he has in his offense, because he doesn't seem to be overly dependent on any of them.
Yeah, I mean, what we do well is we're really good in route running. The intermediate routes, we run a lot of match routes on backsides where you're getting different options to sit in zones or beat them with a comeback. But when they try to bracket somebody, like you see a lot of times where Lacey gets off to a fast start and he's just going to get the first 3 or 4 passes. He's wide open on in-breaking routes or comebacks. Then they start trying to bracket him and throw a little bit of help over there, and then he starts hitting the other side of the field. So he makes them play both sides of the field, where they got to kind of pick and choose who they're trying to take away.
Reminds me of another year. See if you can come up with this year, Rich. The top receivers on the team had between – the top 4 receivers on the team had between 5 and 7 touchdowns apiece. The top 4 receivers on the team had between 32 and 55 catches when the year was over. Had between 650 and 375 yards on the year. Averaged between 9 and 17 yards per catch on the year. They were all kind of bunched together because they were all extremely productive. You remember what year that was?
07?
07. Very good. You were one of the guys. I was giving you.
You stopped at 5 touchdowns. I was like, well, I had 5 touchdowns.
You'd have 5 touchdowns. In 2007, which ended pretty well, Brandon LaFell led the team with 656 yards. Demetrius Byrd had 621 yards. Early Doucette had 525 yards, and you had 375 yards from the tight end position. Everybody had between 32 and 57 catches. There was a big 4 that year, which the year before that, correct me if I'm wrong, but Bo and Buster had considerably more. Yeah. Well, Doucette was right there with him that year.
And the number in 07, why that skewed, Doucette missed a lot of games. He was our number one. He got when he pulled.
That's right. He missed a handful of games in the middle of the season. Yeah. But my point being, he has spread the ball around exceptionally well. And for for quarterbacks, they can get dependent on one guy at times.
I think that's when you have that dominant guy that you're trying to force the ball to him a lot. And I think earlier on this year he was trying to force the ball to Lacey sometimes, but now he's just trusting his process. I heard Kelly do an interview the other day about the amount of times he's hitting his second and third read. He's coming off his first read and getting to the third read a lot of times, and that's just us being smart, knowing his offense, knowing where to go, and trusting his guys. Because when you're starting, 1, 2, 3. That third guy has to do exactly what he's supposed to do to be there when you get back to him.
I'm glad you referenced that clip, because another thing Kelly said in that same soundbite was that we don't have a lot of easy throws to the perimeter. Not a lot of spot passes, not a lot of swing passes, no bubble screens. And as soon as he said that, I thought, well, why not put that in? Yeah. Because if he can complete the hard things, I imagine he could complete the. I'm not saying a lot, but maybe a little bit more of that.
I would be good with it, just the way that we're blocking on the edge. C.J. Daniels is a great blocker. I think
he is. We saw that on the film. We did the handicap.
Yeah, he's a great blocker, and I'll tell you who just did an awesome job was Green. When they moved him out to wide receiver, all that blocking practice he's had trying to play tight end, when they pushed him out wide, he was just dominating guys when he got on them.
Tell me you've looked at this longer, because we looked at the film on the podcast the other day, but tell me you've looked at it enough to say, well, as a tight end, he's a below-average blocker, but as a wide receiver, he's an above-average
100%.
blocker?
100%. I watched the game again Wednesday.
Yeah, I know you did.
He was the best blocking wide receiver in that game when he got there.
Well, that's the best news I heard yet. No. Because you said something back in, I think that might have been the Nichols game. You said he's at least a willing blocker.
He was very willing.
His technique may be, not refined, but he's a willing blocker.
The hardest thing to do is when you're a tall guy that's never been asked to block is play with low pad level and getting underneath people, and that's something that's hard to do. But a lot of times guys will shoot their hands, not even try to get in there. When I saw him early on, he was putting his face in there and trying to create contact.
I just had a Jimmy Johnson moment. When Jimmy Johnson was at the U, he did something that seems obvious now but wasn't then. He took players that were too slow to play a certain position and moved them somewhere where they would be faster. Like guys that were too slow to play safety became really fast linebackers, and guys that were too slow to play linebacker became really quick defensive ends. And things everybody you move down a notch. Like you're a horse racing guy. Like, this horse can't run an allowance company, but as a claimer, he's taught. And so if you're telling me Green's not maybe a great inline blocker, but he's pretty good on the perimeter, that's really encouraging.
No, it's something that I think that is a great move. And look, his snaps went up. What, he ended up with 41 snaps in the game?
38 snaps in this game, and he had 42 snaps in this game, and he had 38 for the season. I was about to get that number backwards. 42 snaps in this game, and he had 38 in the games prior to that.
Yeah, they
combined,
put him in a good position.
All of them combined. We're brought to you by Home Bank, Louisiana-based since 1908. Local bankers going to help you reach all of your financial goals. Great CD rates right now with low minimum balances that you can take advantage of either in the short term or in the long term. Here in Baton Rouge, you can check them out at Corporate Boulevard, Sherwood Forest, Longform Village, and Bluebonnet. Also, Home Bank locations in Acadiana, New Orleans, the North Shore, Natchez, and Houston. We've worked with Chris and Andrea and a lot of their great staff. Visit home24bank.com for more information. Home Bank, member FDIC. We'll be back here at Ruffino's on Highland Road. Lock of the Week Friday presented by Tex Morris at Edward Jones Investments on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
It's Lock of the Week Friday, presented by Tex Morris of Edward Jones Investments. Now, back to Live at Lunch from Ruffino's on Highland Road on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
And today's show also brought to you by Louisiana Health and Injury Centers, helping you deal with pain, man. When you're hurting, it's just it becomes everything is about that. You can't move around the way you want to. Maybe you're not sleeping as well. Just, man, get me to feeling better. Dr. Michael Goff and his staff have done a great job for our family over the years. So if you're throwing your back out, you got a neck problem, shoulder problem, knee problem, get them let them work on you a little bit, get you some of those techniques that will get you to feeling better, loosen things up, whether it just be some exercise and stretches that can help you out, or you get into a dry needle, cryotherapy, electric nerve stimulation. They're going to be able to target your problem areas, and they're going to be able to get you to feeling better. Airline Highway, Plank Road, and Jefferson Highway near Drusilla. Dr. Michael Goff, Louisiana Health and Injury Centers. Talk to me about 7 false starts or pre-snap penalties, illegal snap, whatever.
It's ugly.
In a half.
It's very ugly.
Of football.
That's just a weird thing because this team, for the most part, when we talk about the experience they have, and the one spot they don't have necessarily all the experience is at the center, and he had 3 of them. But it's not always, crowd noise plays a big bit in it, but it's just guys being on rhythm, everybody being in the same pattern. Nussmeier can change his mind at the last second and get off rhythm, and it throws the guys off because, it's a lot of timing when you can't hear the quarterback. So it was ugly. I'm sure it's something that was talked about all week, and I'm sure Brad Davis wasn't most excited to deal with it, but it's something that they'll fix, but it was definitely concerning.
You're the latest in a group of people I've heard say, don't blame the noise.
No.
It's loud other places.
I'm telling you, I don't know what they do now with less. They would have jet engine sounds with like 10 speakers right behind our huddle at practice to where it gave you a headache. Your head was throbbing by the time you're out of practice. And you work, everybody has a system to work around crowd noise. A lot of that other stuff is just, it's timing. You can time the quarterback's head. You know what type of rhythm he's in. And it's
You're talking about cadence now.
Yeah, cadence. Uh-huh. The cadence has to be something that you're used to. And there's a lot of tips. Centers sometimes, they'll tip the ball up when they're about to snap. So everybody sees that. Everybody has keys. This is just something a little bit more out of the ordinary.
Chester is learning the nuances of the position. It hasn't always been the smoothest thing there. It feels like we want to blame too much on him, and I don't want to heap it all on one guy.
Look, 0 sacks he's given up so far this year.
Yeah, but there are some things that he's having to work through. This is his first year as a starter. It's his first year as a center. He's 6'6", which is taller than most centers. He's working through some stuff.
It's a first-year quarterback, first-year center. And that's when those are the guys who are responsible for the cadence, the timing, everybody being on the same page. So when you got 2 guys that are new, your 4 other guys, they've played together for a long time. When you get those 2 new, Nussmeier could speed up his cadence and it throws him off. Or he could slow it down and it does the same thing.
Let me play devil's advocate. This is game 7. Shouldn't you work this out in September?
Yeah, no, that's what last week was an anomaly. That can't happen. But it was strange, though, because Anderson had one. Lacey had one. It wasn't just the line where we're talking about the issues and how you can fix it. You had outside perimeter guys who will never hear the quarterback. Their job is to watch the ball, and you still have them jumping.
The wide receiver false starts aggravated me. The one aggravated me because he never got set. He was just bouncing around. Olave did this with the Saints in the game against, I think it was Tampa Bay, and it's like, what are you doing bouncing around? Get set. You know that they're about to. If you mistime something, fine, but stop bouncing. That serves no purpose.
No, I completely agree with you. But what was happening is they've ran that play so many times that by the time I take this step here, he should be saying hut. When I get there and timing somewhere got off, then he's just out of rhythm and he's almost like hitting the panic button, like when you start twiddling your thumbs or something.
But if you're bouncing, if he snaps the ball,
penalty.
Right, and you can't get off the line if you're bouncing in. Stop bouncing around.
No, I don't like it. And don't shoot jump shots.
Well, now that's a whole different. I would love to have been a fly on the wall wherever Nick Saban was watching that game when he saw that.
It was bad.
What he said, and even more I'd like to have been in his mind, because he might have been in front of a group of people that he didn't want to blow up. Loved to have been in his brain when he saw that. Let's talk about LSU's rushing attack. Texas A&M in conference games only. They've played 4. LSU's played 3. They are the top rush defense in yards per game, only 86 per game. LSU had their second best rushing game of the year against Arkansas. The other one's against South Alabama, so we're going to throw that one out. This was the most carries that they had in a game, the most yards they had in a game, again, except for South Alabama. And it really felt like for the first time they were able to lean on the running game when they needed to in the fourth quarter. They've got the lead. They got to go the length of the field to extinguish the clock, and it was I called it this in the post game. I'll call it again. I don't mean to upset anybody, but it was a Les Miles drive.
Yeah.
14 plays, 12 of them were runs, 8 minutes off the clock, and the game is over. Arkansas, if LSU goes 3 and out right there, Arkansas is going to be hard pressed to win the game. I mean, they would have had to do a lot of things. A lot of things would have had to go wrong for LSU to lose, even if they go 3 and out there. But you take the ball, you go to length of the field, you cram it right down their throats. That was the first time I felt like, whoa, look at a running game.
It's backbreaking. It's when the defense can't get off the field, you're beating them on the ground. You take every bit of hope that they can get something going. And I don't know. The run game's getting better. There's still a lot of things to work on. I don't think Arkansas was particularly very good at stopping the run. And so it kind of fit into the game plan where we could, we were going to use that to our advantage and start getting the run game working against them. But, this is going to be another challenge with, they're number 2 or 1 or A&M in rush defense. I think they're number 2.
In conference games.
Yeah, in conference games. Yeah. This is going to be another, big challenge. I mean, can we progress from what happened last week?
This may be a weird analogy, but I'm going to ask it anyway. When you guys played Alabama in 2007, there were a lot of players left over from the Nick Saban time. It'd only been 2 years. Was there times where you guys were preparing for that game going, we know Nick's going to do this. We know he's going to do that. These are things that Nick likes to do. And I realized Les wasn't there, but there were players and stuff there. We know that's like, and I'm asking because it's been it's been several years removed since Mike Elko worked for Brian Kelly. But they still know each other, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's something they put into the game plan. I don't really remember anything, any conversation. Of course, I wasn't there with Nick. But a lot of the players were.
A lot of
players were there. But I remember we had some trick plays in that game where, I think they put in things for it. But I can't necessarily remember a key instance where someone said, this is what Nick's going to do unless –
and not even trick plays, just tendencies, things like we know Nick, and it might be things that you can see on film. You don't have to know the guy. I'm just wondering, is there any inherent advantage or disadvantage for either one of these guys in that they know they've been in meeting rooms, they've been on the practice field together like a lot.
There's coaches who have their favorite blitz package, and then, you're going to recognize that when you see it. And you understand that's what Nick's going to do. This is what he did when he was here. We understand how we beat that at practice, and you're more ready for it.
You don't remember the trick play against Alabama in 2007? It was the throw to Flynn.
Yeah, we had 2 of them. I got the ball on another one.
Who threw the ball to Flynn? Was it
Early?
Early
threw the ball to him, and then Flynn had to fake the injury because he broke his snap on his helmet. He hops up celebrating, and then realizes he can't button his helmet back up. Then he falls down. It was one of those Lane Kiffin falls.
And he called timeout. They call timeout, if I remember right. He goes back in the game, and we're all sitting there going, well, if he's hurt, they're going to run something simple here, let him get back in the flow. And he threw the first ball, and it was a big play. It's coming back to me now vaguely.
I think he threw the ball to me up the middle, but it was a play for Hester. I forget, and they just didn't cover me. I was just supposed to be the decoy that ran somebody off and ended up getting the ball.
What a disrespect! They're not gonna cover you. Come on.
I know they just didn't want to yet.
Awful. College Station, playing over there. They're talking about this as the biggest game in pick a time period. I don't know if I buy into that. There's been a bunch of big games. Alabama's coming there. Johnny Manziel was a Heisman Trophy winner. He played there, and Texas will be there in about a month. So this is a big game, no doubt. But playing over there, they'll be into it.
Half the people I do business with are Texas A&M people. I've heard it all week long. Everybody, they're fired up for this one. I've been working in this industry for 14 years, and the amount of phone calls I'm getting now about this game and what it means to them and the amount of people going down there, it's going to be huge. I mean, this is going to be, probably the craziest atmosphere this team could see.
I'm asking because when Ole Miss came here, my daily broadcast partner likes to call them the runts. He's not the only one to call them the runts, okay? Once a runt, always a runt. A&M is not a runt in that this is a huge school. This is a huge budget. They're never going to lack for resources.
Was it the runts the last time to win in Tiger Stadium in 2008?
Yeah.
Okay, the last 2 times we've been to Kyle Field, we lost.
3 times.
Last 3, okay.
Yeah,
Well, so
haven't won there since haven't won there since 16. Although shouldn't. Wait, hang on. Did they go there in 20? I've erased 2020 from my memory.
20,
might be they haven't won there since 16, but that might be 2 games. Anyway, every time A&M gets to a point where it's time to win something significant, they tend to throw up on themselves through multiple coaches, multiple regimes. They just do. Is there anything to that? Because now you got a new coach. Everything's new. Does any of that roll over into the?
Look, you're always going to put pressure on yourself because they haven't made it to the SEC championship yet, and they've had a lot of 6-0, 7-0 starts, or 6-1, 7-1 starts. That puts them in good position, but they haven't finished the season. And anytime you haven't done something, it starts to creep up in your mind of like, is this the time that we're going to do it?
Yeah. No, they did go to A&M in 2020. They lost
3 times.
TJ Finley was, so it's 3. But this group of players and this group of coaches, they don't know about losing games to Texas because they've never played them.
No.
They don't know about losing games to A&M, to LSU in College Station because this group of players has never done it. They don't know about coming close in other years and falling flat on your face. All they know is this team.
But they know that this program hasn't made it there, and that's when you hear.
Do players think about that? You
don't necessarily think about it, but like when you say we don't listen to the media, that's one thing. Every player wakes up every morning and reads the paper. I said this all the time. Les Miles, when we played at
you old. They pick up their phone and they look at Twitter, at Instagram. But anyway, I got it.
They do phones now. But we always said that. But then when we came out of the player meetings, there was a table with 100 newspapers on it.
Yeah.
For the players to pick up on their way out. And everybody went straight to it and just started reading
everything. They provided you guys with newspapers?
Yes. So I never understood that. We got there and there was this table stacking newspapers for us.
How did I not know that? How did that piece of information not leak out until now?
We don't pay attention to the media. We don't listen to it.
They tell you not to block out all the noise, and then they're handing you this stuff? Okay. I learned something. I learned something new today. Now, current players are a lot of times just oblivious to this. I can remember when LSU beat Alabama in Tiger Stadium in 2000. It was the first time they'd beaten them in Tiger Stadium since the late 60s. But those players didn't know anything about that. They weren't born, the last time. They didn't. It didn't mean anything to them. It meant something to the fans. The fans that had suffered through all of those that long losing streak. And LSU had beaten them in Tuscaloosa and Birmingham a number of times, but they had gone 30 years without beating them in Tiger Stadium. And the fans were crazy, and the players were kind of like, "Yeah, we won. It's cool, but." We weren't there for
they also
15 losses in a row.
Motivation for that, like this, no one's ever been able to do it. Y'all are going to be the first ones to do it. Y'all go set the trend.
Okay,
yeah.
All right. They don't like LSU very much.
No.
They don't. The level of distaste isn't quite what it is for Texas. I wouldn't want to be within 50 miles of College Station when the Horns go in there at Thanksgiving because it's going to be nasty.
To me, it's very similar with the Arkansas game. Like I could care less about A&M, but all they want to talk about is LSU. I could really care less about Arkansas, but it's such a big game to them. It's I'm gonna start calling them. They're very similar.
The layers are Arkansas cares about LSU. LSU doesn't care about Arkansas all that much. A&M cares about LSU way more than LSU cares about A&M. LSU cares about Alabama way more than Alabama cares about LSU. Yeah. And that
the
makes
most equal trade-off was LSU-Florida. We both hated each other.
Yeah, and Florida's been – I just kind of figured that Florida would be good forever now in the current day, and I was wrong on that. I never thought I would see the day where the University of Florida would have 3 straight losing seasons. Overall, no. I did. It was like, listen, they're drop-offs, okay? I understand everybody's not going to be Spurrier or Urban Meyer, but I'm like, a bad year at Florida is 8-4.
Yeah.
I never dreamed that they would be like that. So that was but LSU maybe looks down their nose at Arkansas and shouldn't because Arkansas has beaten them a number of times, or Ole Miss. That's how Alabama looks down on pretty much everybody, but you ask any Alabama fan, who's your biggest rival. They'll tell you Auburn, and then second is Tennessee, or for some people that's reversed. And at LSU, it's like, who do you want to beat more than anybody? Alabama.
You talk to the players from Alabama, they'll say LSU because that was usually the most equal talent field.
Well, I know Nick felt that way because he made sure that the bye was there. But I'm saying they're fans.
Yeah.
Why am I acknowledging Alabama fans on this show, man? Come on.
They've lost 2 games this year. Come on, be happy.
They're going to lose more.
Okay.
Not Saturday because Missouri's only bringing half the team, but they will lose more games. I'm confident of that.
LSU's going to beat them.
Aren't you confident about that stuff? I certainly hope so. We're brought to you by Total Maintenance, AC and heating, generators, electricity, plumbing, your one-stop sales and service shop for all of those things. Since 1980, their slogan has been service today, every day, so you don't have to go to sleep hot. And here, coming up pretty soon, you don't have to go to sleep cold. Total Maintenance has expanded into New Orleans, along with their offices in Baton Rouge, full staffs in both markets. They're an authorized dealer for Carrier, American Standard, Daikin, and Rheem AC units, Generac, and Cummings generators for all your electrical and plumbing needs as well. In Baton Rouge, Total Maintenance, 480-1000. In New Orleans, 841-3300. Service today, every day at Total Maintenance. Be back to wrap up hour number 1. Log of the Week Friday, presented by Tex Morris at Edward Jones Investments from Rufino's on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
It's Lock of the Week Friday, presented by Tex Morris of Edward Jones Investments. Now, back to Live at Lunch from Rufino's on Highland Road on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Cool event tomorrow for a great cause. The Baton Rouge MS Society has got their bike bash at Radio Bar tomorrow. 3079 Government Street. Pre-game party starts at 3 o'clock. Pastelaya and draft beer while the supplies last. Drawings at halftime. They've got a lot of memorabilia. Josh Smith, current Texas Ranger, has signed some stuff. Tyrann Mathieu has signed some stuff. They're going to be giving away a free bike. It's one of the really nice ones. I don't have all the details. One of the really nice ones. All of that's going on tomorrow, starting at 3 o'clock. You get raffle tickets with your donation at the door of $30. So get out, have a great time at Radio Bar. Watch the game. Music by DJ Jones, MD, and it's for a great cause, Baton Rouge MS Society. Tomorrow, starting at 3 at Radio Bar. All right, Rich. How does it play out tomorrow night in College Station?
I think it's going to be a really good game. It's one that I feel confident LSU is going to win, but I think it's going to come down to, a long drive into the game to win it. I mean, I think it's going to be a 31, 28, 28, 24, one of those type games.
Back-to-back games on the road. Any concern for you at all? This hasn't been a long stretch, but it's the third week in a row in back-to-back road games.
No. I think the one good thing that happened last year is we got off the field quick. I mean, I think Arkansas only had 51 snaps. They didn't play a long, brutal game that just wore everybody out. Everybody seems to be getting healthy. I think they're going to be ready to roll.
That is a good point. Outside of the injuries that we've known about for a long time, the guys like Perkins and Emery and Guillory that have been out for a while, the rest of the team is fairly healthy. I mean, Daniels is still, they downgrade him to questionable for Saturday, but they're in pretty good shape. I mean, to have your entire offensive line intact, the linebacking core is intact, the defensive line, those freshman defensive linemen continue to improve.
Yeah, I mean,
on the interior.
You're starting to see some of the older guys get more reps, but they're getting, breathers with the young guys, and the young guys are coming in and doing their thing.
That's what they wanted all along, right?
Yeah.
They wanted a rotation among those guys up at the top. Okay, tomorrow pregame starts at 1:30. You're going to be a part of that. What else in the league tomorrow? We talked about Alabama. Missouri's going without their starting quarterback and their starting running back tomorrow. So don't.
I've been all in on LSU A&M this week. I've watched when I get home. That's all I've been watching, reading up on. This is a big game.
The other big game was supposed to be Oklahoma Ole Miss. Ole Miss is a 3-touchdown favorite in that one. All right, Rich, we'll see you for pregame and postgame tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
Take a break. Come back for hour number 2. Log of the Week Friday, presented by Tex Morris at Edward Jones Investments from Rufino's on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
It's Lock of the Week Friday, presented by Tex Morris of Edward Jones Investments. Now, back to Live at Lunch from Rufino's on Highland Road on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Lock of the Week Friday, presented by Tex Morris and Edward Jones Investments. Did you hear that the number one cause of blindness among NFL officials is looking at Rams jerseys? Gotta be, right?
Is a rough night on the calls?
Well, they grabbed the face mask of a 6'3", 225-pound man, turned it backwards, took him off of his feet, and didn't call it. So yeah,
He didn't complain enough for me on it. I mean, I guess it's over. He whatever, but
you're talking about the coach of the quarterback,
Darnold.
Yeah,
I mean, when
I have no idea what he was thinking, but if it was me, I would be thinking that no way they missed that. They're going to call it, and then maybe he just wound down too quickly. I don't know. They almost broke the guy's neck. I know that, and somehow they all managed to miss it. And not only that, but
where's the guy in the God seat?
Glad you asked. Not a reviewable call. Not even from the God seat. Not a reviewable call. Okay. And I don't want to go back to that year after the Nola no call where we're reviewing every pass interference, but my goodness, I mean, we're watching it again here, and it's like, I mean, how do you miss that? Even the defender.
Yeah, the defender gave himself up.
He's got his arms he's got his hands at his head like, oh my God, what have I done?
Right.
Because he knows he's going to get flagged, except he didn't.
Yeah, he blew it.
Come on.
Yeah.
That was what was uglier, that or Kyle McCord last night? McCord was pretty bad.
McCord did it over and over.
Yeah, that correct. The officials in Los Angeles missed
habitual
one.
Pattern.
McCord missed 5. 3 of them returned for touchdowns. So much for my Syracuse pick last night.
I had Syracuse too.
Yeah.
I had Minnesota. It was rare that I was on such a public side, but I didn't think Nakua was playing.
Nobody did. They kept that very quiet.
I knew Cup was playing in the. We know that in McVay is getting a little testy. As far as the wording or of the reports. I mean, really, there's some things wrong. We address that with the individual, but it's more about, the language of it. No, y'all shopping Cup. I mean, and how old is Cup?
31.
Okay, so another receiver, declining receiver in his early 30s with Adams, Hopkins, and Cup. And one thing that they all have in common, none of them are none of them can get separation. I mean, watch all of them wherever they are. I mean, they got guys draped all over them. So it's been really. It just he looks the worst though. He looks. He should not have been playing last night. Cooper Kupp. I mean, man, Charlie. He looks like he's 40-something years old. All of a sudden.
Is it you talking about the hair, or are you talking about just the
no
routes,
the play? No, we evaluate play.
Okay.
We're not cosmetics here.
Okay.
I mean, he is so. I mean, the injuries have taken its toll. Forget what he was, because he is. Now he is a slow white guy, but the others, they can't get a whole lot of separate. Watch Hopkins, in the catch. Man, he's got guys all over him. I mean, those guys just aren't with it. None of them are getting separation anymore.
Kupp, I was going to give a little bit of slack. I didn't think he was quite as bad as what you're saying last night. I don't disagree that he can't get separation, but I think he was quite that bad. I was going to give him a little bit of a break because it first came back. But the question the Rams have to ask themselves is, do you want to shop him when you're in first place? Okay, you got a losing record and you're tied for first place, but you're in first place. So do you want to shop? He's a starting receiver for them. He's still a productive player. He's not the dominant player he once was. He's still a productive player. Do you really want to shop him?
Well, it maybe him being rushed back it contributes to my opinion on him. Maybe he's not 100%, but with that last night, he should not have been playing. I mean, that just wasn't It wasn't good.
Game out of first place. I'm sorry. Seattle's got them. I had mistakenly believed that the 49ers were just in first place because that's where they should be. They're actually a game behind Seattle. But they're right there is what I'm saying. They're not out of it.
These declining receivers in their early 30s, and none of them are close to what they were in their prime, and none of them gets a whole lot of separation. I mean, there's no comparison. Last night, no comparison. Nakua and Kupp. I mean, none whatsoever.
Well, at least in two of these situations, they don't have to be the number one guy. Devontae Adams doesn't have to be the number one guy. That should be Garrett Wilson in New York. And Kupp no longer has to be the number one guy if Nakua is on the field. Now, in Kansas City, it's a little bit different because they've got a bunch of people
regretting
hurt.
not picking the speed guy to Texas?
Say everywhere.
I don't know fantasy. He can't be doing much in fantasy.
No, he's
not a touch guy.
He's a boomer bust guy. He's one of those guys that if you have him on your roster and you happen to play him in the right week when one of your guys is in a bye and he pops a touchdown, great. But he's not a guy you can play a lot.
I mean, the cornerback for Cincinnati gave us an accurate scouting report. I mean, he's a go route guy. That's it.
Right.
And I mean, whenever they run, end arounds and things like that to him.
Yeah.
He's shovel passes, but
one of those guys you might pop him. If you pop him the right week, maybe he scores a touchdown. But he's not somebody you can play every week. No.
You're not regretting drafting.
No.
Okay.
No.
There are other guys. You came on here and man, I blew it and this.
Kansas City sometimes.
Charlie,
they make you feel like that because you're like, oh God, why didn't I draft the guy in Kansas City playing with Mahomes? No, I drafted the other guy in Kansas City. I drafted Kelsey. I can always pick when guys are about to fall off the cliff in their offensive production.
He's hosting game shows.
Yeah, he's very good at that. Hey, maybe he'll be in New Orleans this weekend. I hear the girlfriend's playing some arena down there, the big arena.
Tonight, Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah. 150,000 people over 3 nights.
Okay, is that what it was? I was thinking it was about 50,000. They could get
the way they configure her stage blocks off a certain amount of seats.
That's everybody.
So, but 50,000. She sold out 3, and she could have sold out 6. There was demand for a request for another 150,000 tickets. So she's popular.
Super Bowl puts 72 in there. Saints would be Saints would be the second home team to win the Super Bowl on their home turf. Huh?
What year is that going to be?
This year.
No, it ain't.
Man.
No, it ain't going to be.
We sat here and it's a black and gold Super Bowl, huh?
Well, you got a ticket somewhere that proves that you said that.
I do.
Yeah.
You want to buy it?
I don't.
Okay.
I think you should frame it though as a constant reminder.
Digital. It's digital.
Okay. Take a picture on your phone. We'll put it in a frame. As a constant reminder. Not to
overreact after 2 games.
Yeah, on the Saints.
Saints were really good 2 games.
They were the champions of the league after 2 games.
I mean, what are we going to start looking at Pitt's schedule? We've been talking about Clemson, Miami, SMU, all undefeated. All are going to be favorite. The rest of their games, none of them play each other. Are we just slow to warm up because Pitt pulled a couple out the hat?
They did pull a couple out that. Well, the game is at SMU next week.
Okay.
Assuming SMU wins at Duke, which I think is a tricky spot for them.
SMU will be favorite, though.
Yeah, SMU is a double-digit favorite at Duke this week. I think they win, but I think it's a tricky game. But that's the –
Why?
Well –
they watched Pitt last night?
Duke is 6-1. They probably shouldn't be, but they are. They're getting a bunch of points. I like them with the points. I don't necessarily like them to win the game. I think looking at the SMU look-ahead spot to Pitt now gets a little bit more magnified after last night, and Duke has found a way to win 6 out of 7 games. So I think it's a tricky spot. I think they win, but they've just been blasting everybody so much.
That is uncommon. A conference game, both teams are 6-1 and 11.5-point road favorite.
Yeah,
no, that is uncommon.
Yeah, and it's because I don't. And the reason why is, I think, you tell me, not only has SMU covered every game since the quarterbacks changed, they have covered every game by double digits. So I think that line's inflated a little bit over what maybe it should be. That's just my take on.
Yeah, but when you cover it by that wide of a margin in the middle of the season that many times, I mean, they got to push it up.
Right, and they did, and at some point there's a buyback. I think maybe that'll be tomorrow.
But I don't. That's a tough handicap there. That's a tough handicap because I respect SMU a lot better.
Oh, they
than Duke.
play. I've made some money.
They should
on SMU.
be. I mean, they're double digits on the road.
I've made some money on SMU in the last month. Pitt still got Clemson, and then they finish at Louisville, at Boston College. It's back-to-back road games. Not that either one of them are world beaters. They got a ways to go.
And they play Clemson.
They play Clemson at home, but the 3 of the last 5
Clemson's
are on the
going to
road.
go to Pitt. Well, that's their big one.
Yeah, Clemson's got to go to Pitt, and Virginia's playing better, and they got to play Virginia at home. So Pitt, look, all the credit in the world, 7-0. They got some hay to bail on the last 5 games. It's by no means easy for them.
Yeah.
What's up with McCord, man?
He had a bad. He didn't have a good game that Friday night game against Stanford when they lost, but nothing like this. He threw a bad pick in that UNLV game, if you remember. It's tied. They had the lead. UNLV responds. It's a 2-touchdown lead, Syracuse, and then they responded. And it's like second down inside the 15, and he throws a pick in a tie game with like 7 minutes to go. You can't do that. And it was to a linebacker as well.
Yeah.
The white linebacker is really good for UNLV. I think he's their team captain. He's a good player, but you just can't do that. He snapped back for him. They had to convert a 4th down where the ball carrier broke a tackle behind the line of scrimmage on 4th and short to keep their hopes alive, and then they went into overtime. But he not like this. He's never had anything like this.
We kept looking
like last night.
Yeah, we kept looking for a reason why Ohio State moved on from him, because we both thought, hey, you stuck with him all the year last year. You went through the growing pains. He's ready to step up. He looks the part. He's got the arm. He's got the body. He's got everything. But maybe they just felt like, you know what, we don't trust this guy in a big spot.
No, I still think in year 2 with the continuity. What would Joe Burrow's legacy be around here if he played 1 year in Baton Rouge?
Danny Etling?
No, not
so that 1 year.
No, come on, man. Is he not the most?
If he had gone to the draft after 18, it would have been
Charlie.
Just
he's
another guy.
so much better than Etling. Even if 1 year. My point is, you went right past where I wanted to go. But he had a rough night. You're saying, that's why we didn't play. Well,
No, you brought up 2 other examples. You brought up the Friday night game against Stanford, and you brought up a big
spot
spot
against UNLV. It was nothing like this.
No. This is the worst one, but that's 3 different spots in 3 different games where he's made big mistakes.
Yeah, but, Nussmeier makes big mistakes every game. Every game.
Yes, and he makes a lot of big plays with
and McCord has made a lot of big plays. And let's not compare the supporting cast. You think he's going to make these mistakes with Ohio State's supporting cast?
Well, that's the question. That's the question. What would Ohio State's record be if he were the quarterback?
What is Syracuse's record? 6-2.
Yeah. No, I like him. I'm just saying.
When's Syracuse been 6-2?
Donovan McNabb.
He was horrible last night, but no, I'm not ready. That was all about if Michigan beat you 3 times in a row, you do after you beat them a dozen times in a row. They're panicking. Will Howard, you watch him last year? He was not good last year.
I can't argue with you on Howard because I can't tell you a single game that Ohio State won because of him this year. And if McCord was at Ohio State, their record may very well be the same thing that it is now.
You could say that. Why do we have this guy? He didn't even know how much damn time we got. No, you can't run in and get down. You got to get down immediately. No, you got to throw an out pattern. You can't.
They might have lost the game to Oregon anyway if McCord had been there. Now
they might have won it.
They might have won it. It was a head bob game.
I think that's result based. Commentary right now after last night. Oh yeah, and maybe some of them that maybe that's therapeutic for him. I think glad we passed on him, but I think that he's overall, what was Syracuse? They're probably over their win total already.
Probably.
The coach got fired last year, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because you don't get fired if you're great and everything's in place.
No, this is a new coach. He brought in 19 transfers. They've started 50 games for him. He's done a really nice job. They're doing well in recruiting, and this was the biggest get in the transfer portal for them. He said that was Fran Brown's words was, "Thank you, Ohio State, for sending us this guy." It's a quote.
Yeah. I mean, he rough night last night. He took a back seat. He's not perfect, but I mean, what quarterbacks?
I'm not saying his career's over or anything.
Who's the most consistent quarterback in the country right now? Dylan Gabriel? Effective, good, consistent. I could go to his picks. He was throwing some picks. He threw a couple of picks against Michigan State.
Oh, he had some. He had some turnover problems at the beginning of the year.
Tell me one guy. Everybody in the SEC, you don't know what you get in play to play or game to game.
No, the most consistent quarterback with big plays probably been Cam Ward.
Was Milroe the same quarterback at Georgia in the Tennessee game?
No.
You know, Beck tried to keep Texas in the game.
Probably Cam Ward. If I had to vote for an All-American quarterback right now,
no.
I'd probably vote for Cam Ward.
And when you look at Miami's personnel and their competition, I mean, it has been. I mean, they struggle with Cal and Virginia Tech.
Yeah,
but he is Cam Ward, and he's been the most consistent. A little bit schedule related. A little bit.
It would be a different game if they played Florida this weekend. Than
like we bring up Milroe. He's playing against Tennessee and in Georgia. No, well, which Cam Ward's played, and anybody close to that? Cal. That's their toughest.
No. And I said, it would be a different game if they played Florida now. Florida's playing much better now than they were playing. I don't understand that, because the way Miami beat Florida that day was just up front. I mean, he was just sitting back there, and then they just destroying him. And all of a sudden, Florida's putting up a fight up front. They're run blocking better, and that's the thing that I can't figure out. I mean, when you get pressure and you fine tune, you get some the passing game going, and the offensive line comes together as a unit and things like that. But Florida's battling. It might be over. It probably should be over. Okay, but they're one of the more improved teams in the country. Like I said, it'd be a much different game if they played Miami now.
With losing their quarterback. Yeah.
Much different.
Yeah. Come on over here to Ruffino's. Don't forget our specials today. Lobster risotto. The creamy arborio rice with the lobster stock and chilled lobster salad, Italian sausage manicotti with marinara sauce, Italian cheese blend, and herb breadcrumbs. Entree features our fish today is a pan-seared halibut with the blister tomato, capellini marinara, and basil pesto. Suggested wine pairing, a Peugeot Chardonnay out of Napa. Blue cheese crusted filet with blue cheese. The blue cheese crusted filet with marchand de vin. You got that, Charlie? Goat cheese, mashed potatoes with the grilled asparagus. Suggested wine pairing is a Frank Family Chardonnay. Frank Family Cab, of course. A cab with a steak out of Napa. And then the dessert feature, how about this? Praline crinkle cake with phyllo dough, toasted pecans, folded and baked in a custard. Flaky, soft, and sweet. How about that? Lock of the Week Friday here at Ruffino's, presented by Tex Morris at Edward Jones Investments.
It's Lock of the Week Friday, presented by Tex Morris of Edward Jones Investments. Now, back to Live at Lunch from Ruffino's on Highland Road on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Remember, you can always get the show on demand, the new LouisianaSports.net, 1045ESPN.com. New Handycast up this week, a review of LSU and Arkansas. Richard Dixon is up. Handycast on YouTube.
All right, let's go out to San Diego, talk to Chris Macero, professional sports bettor, get his 5-pack this week. Chris, what's going on, brother?
How we doing, Jimmy? I was just listening to you do that ad for Frank's Family. It reminded me of the time you kind of stormed and broke up our dinner at Barry's that night at Circa after the LSU USC game.
Wait a minute now.
Look. You came for the desserts.
When we were eating in what is the Asian wok place? It's really good in Circa. What's the name of that place? Jade East or something?
8 East, I believe. Yes.
8 East. Yeah, it's good, man. It's good. So, but yeah, we got to drink some nice wine. So when we go to Paris, so that's a cool spot. We got a great picture as well in that one. So I was just happy to ask my broadcast partner how his exit trip was leaving Allegiant Stadium.
Oh, I got on I-5 on a bicycle.
Hey, at least you had a bicycle with you. I was there for a Metallica concert. I want to say 2 years ago, and I was wearing cowboy boots for some unknown reason, and I ended up having to walk 1 mile left over two overpasses, And at that point, you're just stuck. There's no one's picking you up. So, yeah, 2 miles in cowboy boots after a whole night of Metallica. So it's rough. There's no easy way out of there.
No, he was on one of those rickshaws, and, and the guy went. He gave him $100 to give him to Mandalay Bay to do post game, and next thing you know, he's on the damn interstate, went on the rickshaw.
A bicycle with a flashlight on the front, you know.
No, but there were people that were getting. They were upset. They lost the game. Then they were getting, the restrictions. They were knocking down barricades. It was a little rough.
Pedestrian only bridge. Those are the last words I remember before I started praying.
There you go. All right, Chris, let's get to it. Penn State, little look ahead spot. They've got Ohio State. It's the whiteout game, but then they go to Wisconsin. And Wisconsin is improving as of late, but you're looking more. So you think that Wisconsin may have a shot in this look ahead spot? 6.5 right now.
Yeah, I like Wisconsin. Lean them, but I'm more interested in the total. It's going to be a cool, cold, low 40s, high 30s fall evening in Madison. Both of these teams want to run the ball. Penn State runs it 59% of the time. Wisconsin runs it 57% of the time. Both defenses highly ranked. Penn State, 8th in the country yards per play, 4.3. Wisconsin, 33rd, 5.0 yards per play defensively. I don't think neither Franklin nor Fickle are going to deviate from their game plan. They're going to run the ball. They're going to slow the clock down. And I think Wisconsin's going to try to get this game into the fourth quarter with a chance to win. So that's why I'm going under the total. I see some 48s, 47s and a half out there. And I think if Wisconsin can keep it close, and the only way they're not going to win a track meet, that's not their style of play. They're going to want to keep it close in the fourth. So I think on a cold, cool evening in Madison, the under is the way to go, 47.5, 48.
47.5. Remember last year, Wisconsin, Army, Navy, they were all modernizing their offenses. We're like, well, let's see how this is going to work, all right? Well, I think after they kind of reached a happy medium. Army, Navy are going back to option based. Okay, they're not going to. Then they got two guys that can actually throw the ball adequately. Okay, but still, they're option. In Wisconsin, don't you think, Chris? It kind of down there, they're happy medium. You know, man, you're not just going to have a bunch of skill guys that you can run four or five wides.
You need the players to actually implement that. That's what we talked about at San Diego State. They brought Deshaun Lewis over to coach, and he's this high, prolific, passing, run fast, hurry up offense. But if you don't have the personnel to do it, it just doesn't work. And the quarterback at Wisconsin right now, he's not a Cam Ward type or even a Milroe type, or just someone that can run it fast and get out of the pocket. So I just think they're going to stick to the run game, go back to the old Wisconsin tradition, and hopefully this game goes under.
All right, Cincinnati is your next pick. What you looking at here in this one, Clarice?
Well, Cincinnati goes out to Boulder to face Neon Dion. 80% of the bets are on the Buffaloes. The line open 3.5. It's up to 6.5. I think that is a little extreme. I mean, this is the first time that Colorado is going to be laying points after 3 straight weeks of getting them, and up to 6.5 seems a bit rich for me. Cincinnati, 5-2, and they're 4 points away from being 7-0. They had a 27-6 lead with 4:52 to go in the third quarter versus Pittsburgh in Week 2. They blew that lead unbelievably. Pittsburgh kicked a field goal with 20 seconds left to beat them 28-27. In Week 5, they got tripped up by Texas Tech and Lubbock, 44-41. But they're coming off back-to-back wins over UCF and ASU, and I think Scott Satterfield has a slight coaching advantage over Deion Sanders. And I feel like 6.5 is too much for Colorado, a team that has had some big defensive lapses and some questionable coaching decisions by Deion and the staff. I'm going to ride with the Bearcats plus 6.5.
Yeah, but Charlie, Colorado, I mean, they're trending. It was supposed to be right around 6.5 their win total. They are playing. They're playing better a little bit this year. A little bit, certainly more consistent than last year.
Since they got
more complete, more balanced.
Since they got that miracle against Baylor, they went down and blew out UCF. They blew out Arizona last week. The game against Kansas State, they were trailing 2 scores in the
took the
fourth
lead.
quarter, and they took the lead.
Yeah.
So they're playing much better than they were at the early part of September.
All right, let's go to Ole Miss and the Hottie Toddies. 20-point favorites over Oklahoma. Of course, this is a regularity for the Runs to beat 3 touchdowns over Oklahoma. Unbelievable. But, Chris, you're looking at the total, which at DraftKings, our friends over at the Queen, well, we'll be broadcasting Football Sunday this Sunday, 10 a.m. to noon. We're in town from the Borough, not at the Borough Vaj. We'll be at the Borough Vaj next weekend. But Ole Miss, Oklahoma total is at 49.
Yeah, 49. The run's off of a bye. So the defense has been fantastic all year, 10.6 points a game, and that includes the 13 points that you guys at LSU got in the last 30 seconds in the overtime and the miracle last-minute drive Kentucky got. So if you take that out, they're under 10 points per game defensively. And if you look at this Rebels team really should be 7-0. And I think Lane will tighten up that back-end defense. That was a little embarrassing how it ended in LSU. And you couldn't find a better opponent to tighten up your pass defense against than Oklahoma. 107th in points, 22.1 a game. If you go to SEC play, Oklahoma's only averaging 13.5 points a game. And that, and the 22.1 includes a 51-point effort week 1 versus Temple. I mean, that's so far out of the memory right now. This team is just saddled with so many injuries. All 5 of the top wide receivers are still either out or doubtful. You bring Jackson Arnold back into the fold, but he wasn't very impressive the first couple weeks of the season. I'm just not sure where the points come from in this game. I could see maybe they get 14 points, Oklahoma, and I think it's just going to be let's get the win. It can be a little impressive. They're not going to try to blow anyone out. You don't need to get anyone injured. Maybe a 31-10 type of game. I mean, Ole Miss has been great on defense all year. Oklahoma hasn't been able to move the ball all year. I just see this game being a dead under.
All right.
Yeah, no, I love the pick because the one score, the touchdown they got against Tennessee was garbage. The touchdown they got against South Carolina, they were down 32-3. One of the touchdowns against Auburn was a pick six. I mean, every number you gave is horrible for their offense, and it's even worse. When you look at it, I mean, that's a really bad offense.
Yeah, it's funny.
I mean, in SEC play, Oklahoma, and like you mentioned, some of that was pick sixes or garbage time touchdowns. It's only 13.5 points a game in SEC play. It's like, welcome to the SEC, Oklahoma. This isn't, you're not getting the Big 12 tomato can defenses like you had for the last few years.
Well, let me get this straight, okay? A team is referred to as the Runts, are 3 touchdown favorites over one of the biggest blue bloods, maybe a top 5 blue blood of all time. That blue blood just gave their coach an extension and a raise. Something's missing. Something is missing. Speaking about something,
we're in the wrong racket.
Charlie's a big proponent of the athletic directors just paying all this money not to coach. Michigan last year in East Lansing against Michigan State, they outscored them 14-0 in the first, 14-0 in the second, 14-0 in the third, 49-0, and now they're at home. And the defending champs are only 4.5 over Michigan State. Chris, prime time tomorrow night, 6:30 our time.
Yeah, I see this game as 2 teams going in opposite directions. Spotty off a nice win last week versus Iowa. Michigan off a disaster loss versus Illinois, 3 turnovers. Tuttle was sacked 5 times. Wolverines were shut out in the second half. I don't know what to make of this Michigan team. I mean, I don't see laying points with them, that's for sure. So I'm going to take the 5 points with 4.5 with Michigan State. Jonathan Smith, major coaching advantage. This team racked up 468 yards versus a really good Iowa defense and 5.48 yards per carry on the ground. So I think they're going to be able to run the ball a little bit against Michigan. And the key to the game for me is if Aiden Childs, the Michigan State quarterback, can protect the ball. He has been a little interception happy. They gave the game away against Boston College due to this. But their other 2 losses are to Ohio State and Oregon, nothing to sneeze about. So I think this Michigan State has got the team going in the right direction after a few years of futility. They're going to have that revenge on their mind, as you mentioned. So I'm going with Michigan State +5, 2 teams going in the opposite direction, and let's go Sparty.
All right. And then finally, Texas trying to rebound from the loss last week against Vandy, going to Vandy, laying 18 on the road against the Commodores.
You keep killing me with these hooks. 18.5. Come on, Jimmy.
I'm sorry. We're just going with our local
kidding,
book
I'm
is putting
kidding.
right now. I'm sorry.
I'm kidding. Well, I got to go. If I'm from San Diego, I got to go with Diego Pavia, right? If you
Yes.
did a blind resume between Quinn Ewers and Diego Pavia and asked 90% of the people in the country, they'd have no idea. These stats are kind of insane. I know Ewers best to miss a couple games, but Ewers 68% completion percentage, 1,100 yards, 11 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 16 rushes for negative 30 yards and 1 touchdown. Diego 66.2 completion percentage, 1,391 yards, 11 touchdowns, only 1 interception. And this guy runs the ball, 118 carries, 470 yards, and 3 touchdowns. If you go on the ESPN rating, he's got 164 ratings to 148 for Ewers. So he's having a better year. I don't understand the spread at all. If you change the names of the uniforms, I don't see catching 3 scores for the Commodores. It's crazy to me. We talked about Texas' schedule all year. Who have they played? Is there a chance that this Texas team misses the playoff? I mean, they're at Vandy. They got to at Arkansas in a couple of weeks, at A&M. I mean, what if Vandy somehow knocked them off? They already beat Bama. They already beat Kentucky. Georgia should have lost to Kentucky, and Texas blew the doors off. And Georgia blew the doors off Texas. I'm not saying Vandy's going to win this game, but I'm shocked that they're getting this many points when this team has played. If you look at the overall resume and schedule, I think Vanderbilt has played better than Texas has played this year. It might sound crazy.
We just talked about the SEC quarterbacks lacking consistency. This guy's been consistent. If you had a vote, would he be your first team All SEC quarterback?
Today he would. Yes. Today he would.
Me as well.
Pavia would be your vote?
Yeah, for a first team All SEC.
No.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, Vandy's 2 losses away from being 7-0. Touchdown with 15 seconds to Georgia State and an overtime loss to Missouri. If they're 7-0, what's the spread? I just think the spread is way out of whack. It's just the names on the front of the uniforms and the perception that Vandy is still old Vandy. It's a total different era. The NIL has changed everything. You got a really good quarterback who has a really good attitude, and he's a winner. And I don't see how you can give this team 3 scores at home.
Yep.
And especially Texas coming off that loss. I mean, it's not a big win, but it's almost like it's a letdown loss. Like, they were supposed to go undefeated. They were the talk of the town. They were number 1. And now they got to go on the road to face a really good team that some people aren't giving them due respect.
All right, Chris, we appreciate it. Good luck to you this weekend. We got to run, go to break, buddy. We'll talk to you next week. Good luck.
All right, sorry, Jimmy. Thanks a lot.
All right, don't forget our friends at United Community Bank, the local way to bank big, with locations from Baton Rouge to Golden Meadow, including their newest location at Burbank and Bluebonnet. Running a business can be difficult enough without the right relationship with your bank. With United Community Bank's local business bankers, you're not just a number, you're a partner. Heath Meir, Prentice Wilkes, Nicole Glover, Hunter Creed, David Campbell, David Henry. Stop on by and see how we can help your business today. United Community Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Live at Rufino's Log of the Week Friday, presented by Tex Morris at Edward Jones Investments on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jimmy, Charlie, and Troy. 3 best buddies sitting around talking sports bets. Let's welcome in Troy Macker from Bet Rivers.
All right, Troy, let's get right into it, man. The 80% club in college football at Bet Rivers with the spread. Who are we looking at today?
Yeah, well, on spread tickets, there are 10 teams currently backed by at least 80%. And in terms of money, there are 17 teams currently backed by 80%. Now, some of those are late Saturday night games. That number's going to go down. So I'll give you the 5 teams that are currently backed by at least 80% of the money and 80% of the tickets. So there's kind of a unanimous decision, and there's 5 teams, and we'll start at the bottom. Miami Hurricanes minus 21 against Florida State. Florida State has been dreadful. 80% of the money, 84% of the tickets on the Hurricanes to cover 21. Memphis minus 17.5 versus Charlotte, another not great team. 85% of the money, 80% of the tickets. Kentucky minus 2.5 against Auburn. Another not very good team that is showing some flashes, but they just can't take care of the football. 90% of the money, 81% of the tickets. And then ULM, Louisiana Monroe, that was expected to be terrible this year. Their coach is in the running, I think, for National Coach of the Year. They're plus 7 at South Alabama. 97% of the money, 81% of the tickets. And then the heaviest favorite on money and tickets. Utah -4 at Houston. Houston has been dreadful. 97% of the money, 92% of the tickets. Right now, Utah's the only team with over 90% of the tickets backing them to cover.
Wow. I kind of like Houston there as well. But the coach, the first-year coach out of UL Monroe, he has been named as a finalist or semifinalist. He just got on that list.
Brian Vincent.
Yeah, for National Coach of the Year. So he's being recognized. And not just their win total, it was 2.5. And they've doubled that already.
He was the OC at New Mexico last year. Is that a fertile recruiting ground for coaches, New Mexico?
Well, I can tell you this: the AD at UL Monroe got a hell of a resume point here, because you can go there with that budget, and this is one of those teams where they're talking about, well, man, you're just gonna, I don't know, split the 135 or so Division I teams in half. Okay, half are going to go and play each other, and half are going to do this and stuff like that. But I mean, they've been adding these teams like UL Monroe, and UL Monroe shouldn't be Division I. I'm sorry, they were a much better program as 1AA. Much better program, one of the tops in the country.
National champion in '87.
Yeah, beat Marshall, lost to Marshall in the final one year.
Stan Humphreys.
Yes, yeah. So I mean, they were a much better team there. Troy, anything? Was all the money on Minnesota, the Vikings last night?
Oh yeah. I mean, it was a great start to the week for the sportsbook, considering the last 2 weeks have not gone in the sportsbook's favor. This ended up being the second biggest win of the year for the sportsbook. I believe the first one was either Eagles-Packers in Brazil, or there was one other game, but this was nearly a 7-figure win for the sportsbook. Before the game, right before kickoff, Vikings were well over 80% of the spread money and over 85% of the money line money. And on a Thursday night game, which is typically one of the two biggest handles of the week, them not going over there was huge for the sportsbook. Although, a lot of player props did cash. The over hit as well, but we took a sizable amount of money on the Vikings to win and cover, and that did not happen.
Well, now you get some of these matchups now with these lopsided. We're seeing extreme splits now for some of these NFL games this weekend.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. I mean, right now we got 2 games on money that are over 90% of the money on the teams to cover, and both of them are at least a touchdown. The Jets -7 at New England, which I don't love, currently 93.7% of the money, and Denver -10.5 against Carolina, which even though Denver's offense is slowly getting better, I don't have a lot of faith, but they're playing Carolina, who stinks. 91% of the money there, and they're -10.5. Then you throw in Detroit -11.5 against Tennessee. They're the strongest spread play by tickets at 88%. Then you look at other ones. Baltimore -8 at Cleveland, 82% of the tickets.
Wow.
So we're talking 4 games that are at least a touchdown that are all over 80% on the money or the tickets to cover.
You mentioned the Lions, right? Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
because I'm sorry. I mean, because that's the one. They followed up that high-profile win against Dallas where they looked invincible by winning again as an underdog, actually, at Minnesota, giving them their first loss of the season, of course. And who's betting Tennessee right now? Me, and that's about it. So, I mean,
I'm my hands off that. So 12.5 may be the top spread in the league this year so far that I can remember.
It's up to 12.5 now?
12.5, yeah.
Wow. All right, Troy, anything, any highlights or what we need to know about the UFC card tomorrow?
Yeah, so, I don't have any plays on this. I think I have like a 3-leg money line parlay on some undercard fights that they're heavy favorites. But when you look at the main card, I'm going to sit back and enjoy this because there are 3 fights that could go either way. The main event, Ilia Topuria and Max Holloway, is going to be a banger for the featherweight or lightweight strap. Max Holloway has become probably the most fan favorite fighter in the UFC right now. He has the best style of fight for casual fans and mixed martial arts fans. He just throws punches. He stands in the pocket and will swing. He'll take punches. And in the co-main, you have Robert Whitaker, a.k.a. Bobby Knuckles, great nickname, taking off Khamzat Chimaev, who is a wrecking ball, who has been hot-shotted to the top of the middleweight division. Robert Whitaker, probably the second most fan-friendly fighter in the UFC. He will go out on his shield. This guy is kill or be killed. I can't bet on either of those guys, and because Holloway and Whitaker will go out in their shield and could pull off an upset victory, they're both, plus 220 and plus 210. I'm not betting on Chimaev or Topuria, and I'm not betting on Whitaker or Holloway, but they should be amazing fights. And then a little bit further down on the card, you have who is it? It's Alexander Rakic and Magomed Ankalaev, and that should be an excellent fight for people who like grappling at the light heavyweight division. This is a very good card, and the next UFC number pay-per-view is even better because John Jones is back. I've already placed significant money on John Jones, and that number has only gone shorter and shorter. I got him at minus 400 to beat Stipe Miocic in the main event at heavyweight, and he is now at minus 575. So if you're going to bet for the next UFC pay-per-view, you're probably going to want to pick, Jones to finish or the round specific because there's not a lot of value there. But John Jones is, in my estimation, the most guaranteed money in mixed martial arts. He's the greatest fighter, or he's the best, most talented fighter of all time. So there's a lot of good fights coming up in the next on Saturday and then 2 weeks later.
If you can't find enough to bet on right now, you're in the wrong spot. So you got all four major professional sports going. You got UFC right in the heart of it. You got the World Series. I mean, you've got a little bit of, you got boxing tomorrow, and next week we got 2 days of Breeders' Cup live from Del Mar. Follow Troy on Twitter at Troy Macher. That's Machir. Troy, thank you, buddy. We'll talk to you Monday.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
All right, don't forget, we were over at Jolie Pearl yesterday, and lots of things going on downtown this weekend. Of course, Live After 5, Chris LeBlanc Band, his group is performing the last of the season, the fall season, for Live After 5. Don't forget that we got to make Jolie Pearl your meeting place. You got music all through the weekend. We got a great event tonight at the Manship Theater. That's right, Red Cake Events in Mestizo Restaurant doing a special Metalachi. That's right, Metalachi, the world's first and only heavy metal mariachi band hailing from Los Angeles. They're performing tonight, and following the Metalachi performance, celebration will continue with a special screening of the cult classic Rocky Horror Picture Show. So general admission in VIP tickets, Mestizo's doing hors d'oeuvres and things like that. They are available at manshiptheater.com. That's manshiptheater.com. So check it out. Got Metalachi show. You got a Metalachi. You got the Rocky Horror Picture Show. You got Live After 5. Make your meeting place also Jolie Pearl, historic landmark right downtown, and they've got a great bar, baked specialties. If you haven't seen it, go by and check it out. So a lot of things going on. Make your meeting place Jolie Pearl, where we're pretty shucking good.
Lock of the Week Friday presented by Tex Morris at Edward Jones Investments on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
It's Lock of the Week Friday, presented by Tex Morris of Edward Jones Investments. Now, back to Live at Lunch from Rufino's on Highland Road on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Yeah, Jimmy, I think we both vote for him. I don't know how many votes he would get, but since we were talking about Diego Pavia, I give you the raw numbers. His total yards is only 9th in the SEC, but that doesn't tell a story. 5th in touchdown passes, and he's only thrown one interception, which is the lowest in the league. So his quarterback rating is 3rd in the league, and he leads the SEC quarterbacks in rushing by well over 100.
More than Milroe.
More than Milroe, more than Taylor Green. In fact, he's got, for the season, 470 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns, and Jalen Milroe has 330 yards. Now, Milroe's got a bunch of touchdowns. He's got 11 touchdowns rushing, but Pavia's outrushed him by – he's only got 3, but he's outrushed him by 140 yards.
That's kind of a wash with that big of a touchdown discrepancy.
Yeah. And then the passing, he's the 3rd rated quarterback in the league. In fact, he and Milroe's passer rating is identical. I mean, it's within 100th of a point. So
and Pavia's got a guy like Williams, you know. Yeah,
two or three of those. Two or three of those guys. Yeah. The point being, the raw numbers. People will probably vote for somebody else, but Pavia's.
Why? The people that cover the league. Why? They respect what Vanderbilt's doing this year.
I hope so. I hope so.
I mean, come on.
I hope so. I don't know if the voting were today. I don't think he would win. I'd vote for him, but I don't think he would win. It's not high profile enough. Why?
Charlie, these are people who cover the league.
I know. You
see, the high profile. They cover the league. They cover him.
They cover college football. Why is Michigan rated as high as they are?
No. This is the league. That's national. That's different.
It's Lock Lock of the Week Friday, presented by Tex Morris of Edward Jones Investments. Now, back to Live at Lunch from Rufino's on Highland Road on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Back here at Rufino's Lock of the Week Friday, Tex Morris, Edward Jones Investments, and Bruce Marshall joins us as he does every week. Brucey!
Hey, Kyle McCord. Kyle McCord just threw another interception.
He had a rough night last night. There is no doubt. Bruce, let's start with that. Bruce, do you still think that Will Howard in year one is a better option than McCord in year two would have been there at Ohio State?
After last night, yes.
Yeah.
That was probably Ryan Day laughing in the background. Up till last night, and maybe that's a little unfair because I thought McCord was en route, and he still passed for 300 yards last night. I mean, that's empty because of all the picks, but I mean, he's en route to passing for 4,000 yards and almost 40 TDs. That's pretty heavy, but to have a meltdown like that last night. Now, one or two of those were sort of fluky tip passes, but I also saw him throw some other ones dead into coverage that could have got picked off. He could have had 3 or 4 more interceptions easy last night. So, maybe Howard for one game, maybe Howard's the guy you'd rather have. So maybe Ryan Day was right, but that was a tough one last night for McCord.
7.5 was their win total, so they're at 6-2 right now. So still a very good season for Syracuse. Charlie, bring Bruce onto the conversation we've been talking about.
So we were talking about if you had to vote today for all SEC quarterback, who would you vote for? And we're making the case for Diego Pavia, and he is at this point the third-rated passer in the league, but his yardage total is not high for passing. He's 9th there, but he's the leading rusher among quarterbacks in the league. That's even more than Milroe, although Milroe's got a bunch of touchdowns. So Jimmy and I both are talking about who we would vote for, but who we think the media will vote for. So we'll ask you both questions. If it was today, who would you vote for, and who do you think the media would vote for?
I would vote for Pavia, and by the way, I'm in Murfreesboro, Tennessee at this moment. By the way, so I'm in
Nashville
territory.
Yeah,
outside of Nashville. So I'm down in Middle Tennessee country right now. Actually, I would vote for Pavia, and I think he deserves some Heisman votes. And I know that's a real long shot, but I mean, I don't think anybody's made that much of a difference to a team. And what the leadership, it's like Pavia doesn't know Vanderbilt's supposed to lose. I mean, what he has done, the transformation that he has helped create there has been incredible. Who do I think the media would vote for? Probably Carson Beck, especially after the game last week. They won the game at Texas. I think they might go for him. That'd be wrong. I'd vote for Pavia, and he'd be my guy, and that's who I'd vote for right now.
Beck. Wow.
If I couldn't vote for Pavia, I would probably vote for Nussmeier. And I understand why you think that they would vote for Beck, and I think you're probably right, Bruce. If I had to vote right now, if I had to vote them 1, 2, 3, I'd probably vote Pavia first, Nussmeier second, and third would be a toss-up. Maybe Jackson Dart because his numbers are better than the other ones, raw numbers. But that would probably be my order right now if I had to vote.
Beck is the quarterback of the team, and they appear to be the best team in the league right now, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I get that, but he was horrible against Texas.
He's leading the league in interceptions.
Horrible. He was 4.3 yards an attempt, 3 interceptions, no touchdowns. That is horrible.
Remember the year we had 4 different all-conference quarterbacks, coaches, and writers teams? Has there ever been a quarterback lead the league in interceptions that was the all-SEC guy?
Charlie, you think the Alabama, there's more people that cover Alabama that have a vote, but you think you think Alabama's a flavor of the month right now? And I'm talking about these things count as that too, right?
Right now.
Texas, do they have that many people covering the league? They don't. I mean, and especially the way they got trounced the first real test they had. I don't know how much Texas love. Ewers is out. I mean, you think Ewers is going to beat out Pavia?
No, not Ewers, not right now. Because
you said Texas. You said Texas and Alabama
at the end of the season.
Oh no, okay, but right now, no, we got a lot of football to play.
Right,
but I mean,
I think Bruce has got it right. I think they probably would vote for Carson Beck.
This guy has lifted this Vanderbilt team, and listen, they're beating these teams. It's not really flukish. I mean, they're winning, and it's not. I mean, yeah, they got the one tip ball against Alabama for the pick six. They got their, but they outrushed him by how much? I mean,
he's outrushed him by 140 yards. They would also point to the fact that Vanderbilt has lost to Georgia State. If we're going to be fair about this,
man, let me tell you, you watch that Georgia State winning touchdown. I don't care if Carson Beck threw that to a Georgia guy, they'd be still showing it. There has not been a better throw and catch the whole season, and Nussmeyer's to Anderson to tie was damn good. Okay, damn good. This was down the sidelines. They needed only a field goal, and I mean, this was on the back shoulder in a tight window. It was unreal. So low percentage, just throw and catch by Georgia State, but it was Georgia State, so it's just terrible by Vanderbilt. This was unreal. Down the left sideline, about 35-yard touchdown with less than a minute to go in a spot where most teams are. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me tell you what I thought about that catch. When I saw that, now it was on the opposite end of the field, and it was,
oh, you went to the game?
No, I watched a replay of that, the Georgia State touchdown against Vanderbilt. That was the best catch I saw since Al Dodd made the catch from Bill Kilmer before Tom Dempsey's field goal. Go back and watch that, and look how he managed to stay in bounds catching that. And
I have never seen that play.
I don't know how they made that. Really, you can find a CBS call on that and watch Dodd's catch right before Tom Dempsey's field goal.
I've seen the Dempsey field goal a million times. Never seen that play.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of like the Cal kickoff return. The drive was really another Elway drive to set him up for the go-ahead field goal.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, last minute made some really good plays along the way. All right, Texas A&M and LSU. The winner is in a great spot to make it to the SEC championship game. Charlie, we're talking about 3 or 4 teams that get from the SEC getting in there. I think it's just. I don't know how you can penalize the loser of the SEC championship game. It's going to be very, very tough. But both of these teams do have a non-conference loss, so we got to remind ourselves of that. But still, that's going to be tough to keep the second place team out of the field of 12.
I think you're right, and I hope you're right. I heard Greg McElroy say on one of those panels this week. He says if you get to the SEC championship game, you are guaranteed a spot in the playoff, and the whole panel nodded along with him. So, it's the first time I've heard it addressed nationally about what happens to the loser of that game. I hope he's right. I think he's right.
But keep in mind, with 16 teams, you have a non-conference loss. There are weighted schedules. One team can have a much more difficult path getting. That did make it to the SEC championship game, but it's going to take a lot. It's down to 1. Bruce, I mean, A&M was at 3, 2.5, back toddling between 2.5 and 3. Now it's at 1. Who you got?
Yeah, and I agree with you guys in McElroy. They'll take the SEC runner-up, and the question is how we go 3-4 in the SEC, 3 yes, 4 maybe. Nobody's undefeated in the SEC yet. Right now, as of October 19th, last Saturday. That's the first time I remember that in a long time. This is how competitive this league is. You're right, they're betting LSU some. And I will qualify what I'm saying a few minutes ago with Beck. Beck did have those couple of 400-plus games. They threw some picks against Bama. It's just the media will do that. They beat Texas. I know he didn't have a great game, but, I mean, we know the media, the way they react. Nussmeier right now, I might rather have him than almost any quarterback in the country at this moment. I think the confidence he got from that Ole Miss game. You talk about putting some passes on the money. We talked about this last week. That touchdown to Anderson, that 4th down pass, that was ice in his veins to put that ball where he did and to lead them down. And then that touchdown in overtime was great. Last week, very, very good, the Arkansas game. He's hot right now. You can sense his confidence growing. Now, I got to say, though, Elko, I'd be really wary of Elko should start getting some Coach of the Year mention here. The thing with Weigman, is it going to be the good Connor Weigman or the bad Connor Weigman this week? I mean, he has been a little bit erratic. This is the time of year LSU starts, like we said, they start to hit the accelerator for Brian Kelly. I think LSU is going to win this game. It's going to be a good one, 31-27. I can understand the line moving LSU's direction because I think they're hot right now, and I think they'll be alone on top of the SEC after Saturday.
All right, Bruce. Notre Dame and Navy. This thing is now up to 14. MetLife Stadium in the Meadowlands. Again, Navy undefeated. catching 14 against Notre Dame, but Navy has not played a tough schedule to this point.
No, they haven't. The Memphis game though was pretty. That was pretty good. I mean, what they did to Memphis, and I'm a little wary of downgrading Notre Dame. I should downgrading, but I mean, I liked Georgia Tech last week, and once that game got going, Notre Dame really took charge. I know the backup was in there for Georgia Tech, but Marcus Freeman has got a very good point spread mark the past couple of years too. The defense is fine. I mean, Al Golden, who I think is rehabilitating his case to be a head coach somewhere if he wants, has done a great job with that defense. And Leonard is still, a little bit in and out, but I mean, I think it's confident leadership there for Notre Dame. I don't want to underestimate Notre Dame too much, but I just like this Navy story. They're doing something different this year, adding in the wing tee. Horvath has been so darn good. I mean, they've been dismantling people. This is such a different Navy than that team last year that lost in Dublin 42-3. I just like the momentum Navy's got here and the storyline. Maybe I'm just a sucker for that, but I'm not making this a feature pick, but I am going to lean to Navy to at least keep it interesting up there at MetLife tomorrow.
All right, well, give us a couple of your feature picks. Who are we looking at?
Let's look in the ACC here. How about this one out off the wall? Wake Forest is out at Stanford tomorrow. This is not a great Wake Forest team, but they have won a couple games in recent. They have won at UConn. They did win at NC State. Yes, that's Hank Bachmeier in his 18th year as a college quarterback. He is there at Wake Forest, so there's some competent leadership there. I don't think he's ever quite hit the crescendo. Even he started hot at Boise, and he kind of got worse since in La Tech last year and all. But it's something there. And you look at Wake; it's not a great team, but Clawson has won before. They could win their next three and get bowl eligible, and that'd be a feather in the cap for Wake. Stanford is really, really falling apart here. Look at their scores the last 4 weeks. They haven't been closer than 24 points. They've been in kind of tough, but they're not doing anything. And Troy Taylor switched quarterbacks. He's gone to the freshman, Elijah Brown. Struggled last week against SMU. They could not protect him last week. This is just basically to win a game. I will take Wake Forest there. Also, in the ACC, other end of the country, I will take Virginia tomorrow again. Now, that might have been the point spread game of the year last week against Clemson because Dabo was trying. I mean, he was up. Clemson got hot, and then Virginia got back inside the number, and under 2 minutes to go, Clemson's up 16, and Dabo's got Klubnik in there throwing for a touchdown, long touchdown. And just by a miracle, and Musket comes in for Virginia, and they hit a long TD in the last minute to cover. That's an accomplishment to cover against Clemson right now. But this is also a vote against North Carolina. I can't listen. We talked about this before. Mac Brown, this was not supposed to be something going beyond 5 seasons there for him. I don't think he's in his 6th. They're just sort of waiting. They want Mac to be gone. This has gone bad. 4 straight losses. His buyout is not that bad. It's under $3 million. I don't think they'd like an amicable departure there, but I think the handwriting is on the wall. This just is not working for Mac Brown there this year, and Collins, the defensive coordinator, has been a mess. So I will take Virginia, short price in that one. One other one, good one here, Cincinnati, Colorado. Deion deserves a credit this year. I think Feinbaum's a little carried away saying he should be coach or could be coach of the year. There's a bunch of candidates for that, including in the Big 12, Sataki at BYU, Campbell at Iowa State, and I maintain Scott Satterfield's doing just as good a job at Cincinnati. Sorsby's come in from Indiana, the quarterback. He didn't have bad stats with Indiana last year. He's been a pretty competent leader for Cincinnati. They are very balanced. They're about 50-50 run-pass. The defense has been fine. They are just a couple of plays from being 6-0 themselves right now. So I kind of like Cincy there, and maybe under. Look at Cincy's last couple of games against Gus Malzahn, 19-13. ASU last week, 24-14. I know Sims is a quarterback for Arizona State, but still, they're slowing the games down because they can run. Their defense is good. They got this total up there, high 50s, 57.5. That's too high, boys. I think I'd look under in that one as well. That's a good game late tomorrow night in one of the nightcaps on TV.
All right, Bruce, and in the group of 5 or lower conferences, an obscure pick or two.
Let's go tonight. This is actually a pretty good game. UNLV and Boise. in Vegas. There's some implications here. Genty, of course, Heisman, and then playoff perhaps, and they'll probably have to play again in a Mountain West title game. They could. Total's too low, 63. Both these teams have been going over pretty consistently. Boise didn't at Hawaii a couple weeks ago, but that's their only game in the last 9 they haven't gone over. UNLV's been a pretty consistent over, although it just missed last week. A lot of offense on the field. I would think it's going over tonight. One more tomorrow. How about Temple? I saw them in person last week, and they didn't look all that bad. They got their quarterback, Evan Simon, back. He's a dart thrower, very accurate thrower. They're going down to East Carolina, which just fired Mike Houston this week. I think they made that decision after the Charlotte game a couple weeks ago, and then they just pulled the plug after Army. But they're going really bad right now at East Carolina. You're getting over a touchdown, 7.5. I've seen this morning with the Temple. So I'll take the Owls tomorrow.
All right, Charlie, the Alabama-Missouri line's going from 13.5 to 17.5. What's that tell you?
Cook not playing.
Yes, very good, very good. So we don't have to get an injury report on that one. So, and this just in, Paul Feinbaum doesn't bet on football games. I can promise you that, or anything if he's pumping Deion Sanders to be Coach of the Year. I mean, but the one thing that he's done though, it is what did we criticize Deion for? Okay. All right, you got skill guys, you got a quarterback, but man, you got to get some linemen, get some protection, get some defensive. They are more of a complete team, huh? That surprises me. How much improved they are on offense, and kind of just they playing these instead of playing like the 50 to 40 games, they're playing 28 to 21 type of games,
And Cincinnati is 88th in the country in pass defense. Colorado's a top 10 pass offense in the country. That's a cause for concern for them. I also think it's a little bit of a tough spot for Cincinnati.
Brucey's got Cincinnati, though, and the under.
You get the under. I thought he gave us.
No, Cincinnati and the
Cincinnati
under.
also. Okay.
Cincinnati, yes,
yeah.
yes. That's all right. That's all right. Some of us are paying attention to class, Professor Marshall. Tell them where you're going. You're going from Philadelphia. I mean, these two places, they're a what and what not. As far as college football environments, huh? Tulsa at Temple and then Kentucky at the Grove. He's going from Philadelphia to the Grove, huh?
I know. Well, I started this in L.A. 2 weeks ago, Penn State SC, and then Philadelphia last week. So now I actually went down to Florida to see my granddaughter. I'm up here. I'm actually in Murfreesboro. We're driving to Oxford, and I'm seeing Oklahoma tomorrow against Ole Miss. So
Oklahoma. I want to say Kentucky. My bad. Yes, the one team's
called the Kentucky line.
One team's called the Runts. They are 3 touchdown favorites over one of the top 5, Brucey. All time blue blood program.
Yeah.
Success on the field, Oklahoma. Yeah. Huh? Who's number 1? Maybe number 1.
Oh, they're right there. They're right there.
They're there.
Yeah. Their fans are still coming. You should see what they've done to the hotel prices around Oxford. They're going up, even though and they're paying top dollar to stay there.
I will promise you this. There will be better-looking women in Oxford than there was in Philadelphia. I can promise you that at the Temple game.
Hey.
Yes.
Hey. Okay.
I'm just saying, Brucey. You can call. I know you're spoiled. You grew up in Southern California. I understand, but no question.
Are they not a bigger favorite over Oklahoma than they were against Kentucky? Weren't they a 17-point?
Yeah, it was 16.
In 2021.
Yeah.
Hey, what are we doing? What are we waiting for? Give Venables an extension of a raise. Oh, they already did that in the summer. Brucey, enjoy your stay. Tell my man Brett. We said how you doing and. How about them Tigers, huh? He can't be happy.
They're going to take that one to the grave.
Archie who? So, we soured the rain on their parade.
Hotty toddy. We're ready for tomorrow.
Hotty toddy, got somebody. When's Ole Miss going to beat somebody? All right. Thank you, Bruce. We'll talk to you next week. All right, don't forget our friends at Workbox Services. My buddy Martin Padial, doing a great job over there. Movable storage needs, commercial and or residential. The shipping containers, a lot of them will come in one uniform size, not at Workbox. We've got 8x8, 8x10, 8x20 feet, 8x40 feet, whatever size you need. And then we can also do we can customize them to your needs and to your liking. So we make a lunchroom. We can make work sites for welders and plumbers, custom safety storage near the plant. We deliver to the most of the plants around town or the industrial areas. Customize. You can do dual purpose facility, dual purpose trailers, part office, part storage for your storage containers, climate control, different shelving, lighting, wooden materials or metal materials. Customize it exactly to your needs or preferences at Workbox. Give them a call, Workbox 343-4886 and WorkboxLLC.com.
Lock of the Week Friday presented by Tex Morris at Edward Jones Investments from Rufino's on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Charles Hannegriff's 5-pack of picks. Brought to you by Supreme Rice. Make sure you use Louisiana rice, grown by Louisiana farmers since 1936. Available at most local grocery stores. Supreme Rice.
2-2-1 last week. I don't know whether to be mad, happy, or indifferent with the Auburn game. I love the pick. A lot of people got it 3.5. A few people got it at 4.5. We got it at 4, so call it a push.
I wish I had 4.
Yeah. I guess maybe happy to get out of there, but just so aggravated with how that game
I was happy to get out of there with live wagering down at the Beau Rivage, that's for sure.
22-17-1 for the season. Let's see if we can do a little bit better than 2-2-1 this week. We're going to start with Navy. Well, the great thing about Navy, taking Navy or Army, all the things we talk about situational handicapping, is this a letdown game? Is this a trap game? Are they looking at? We never have to worry about any of that with the service academies. How many games has Navy won? All of them. How many games have they covered? All of them. I'm not counting Buck now. How many games have they gone over? All of them. So they score touchdowns. Been in the red zone 23 times this year. They've scored touchdowns 22 times out of 23. That's pretty good. 4th best rushing team in the nation, and Blake Horvath leads the nation in yards per attempt at 12.3. It's pretty good numbers to have. Notre Dame's fine. They had their hiccup, but I think all the pressure's on them. It's almost like if Notre Dame wins this game, oh, yeah, well, you're supposed to. But if they lose, we were trying to come up with scenarios where a 10-2 Notre Dame team doesn't make the playoff. This might be it. You lose to Northern Illinois, and then you lose another game where you're a 2-touchdown favorite. This might just do it. I'm taking the middies and the points, catching 14 with Navy. I don't think I've given you a total all year, maybe one. But I'm going to give you another one here with Tulane in North Texas. Over 69. This continues to climb. It was 67.5 yesterday. North Texas has scored under 35 points once all year. That was at Texas Tech when they scored 21. That game ended up 66-21. Last 4 games, they're averaging 45, but giving up 31, and that was to teams like Wyoming and Tulsa, who are second and third to last in their leagues in scoring. So they're giving up a bunch of points to bad offenses. Tulane's not a bad offense. They can go. They've scored 41 in all of their non-Power 4 games, except last week when they somehow – Jimmy, explain this game to me. I didn't see any of it. I don't even know if you did. They won the turnover battle with Rice 5-0 and won the game 24-10. I got nothing on that one. I don't know how you do that. You would think if Tulane won the turnover battle against Rice 5-0, they would have won the game by 4 or 5 scores. I don't know what happened there.
I was once about halftime. I kind of steered my attention that way, and they were in a battle.
Yeah.
Now the better team took over, and it kind of won going away a little bit. But no, it was one of my money line parlay, and it was very much a sweat just to win the game.
Yeah, I thought about taking North Texas. The over seems like the safer play here, though. I'm going to go with over the total of 69. Illinois, plus 21.5 at Oregon. Illinois, they're solid. The one game they lost was at Penn State, 21-7. Altmaier's fine. They fight you. They look like a Brett Bielema team. They're sound. They're physical. They're hard. They've won games only scoring 21. They've won games giving up 49. Oregon's good. I think this is just too many points. Michigan State stayed within 21. So did UCLA. So did Idaho. So did Boise State. Oregon probably wins this game, something like 38-20, 38-17. Either way, I'm going to be okay with 21.5 points. I'm going to take the big number. Duke, plus 11 at home against SMU. SMU has been gangbusters since the quarterback switch. They've covered all 4 games by double digits, and that's why I think this spread is inflated. I actually came looking at this game looking for SMU. I found Duke. Third straight road game for SMU with a bye thrown in there. They have to go coast to coast the last 2 weeks, and they got Pitt next week in what all of a sudden looks like an elimination game in the ACC. Duke has been unimpressive in all of their power conference wins, and they lost to Georgia Tech. But this many points at home, I'm going to take Duke for the spot plus 11 against SMU. And we're going to take Colorado minus 6.5 against Cincinnati. Not the easiest spot for the Bearcats. Third road game in 4 with a trip down to UCF. Then they came home for what was a hard-fought game against Arizona State, playing with their backup quarterback, 11 o'clock in the morning game. Now they got to go out west to Colorado, where the Buffaloes have won 4 out of 5 and covered all 5 of those games. They trashed Arizona last week. Here's the number. Buffalo's second highest passing offense in the Big 12, 7th nationally. You think LSU's pass offense is good? Their number is identical to Colorado's. And Cincinnati's 11th in the Big 12 in pass defense, 88th in the nation. Travis Hunter appears to be healthy. Give me Colorado minus 6.5. Deion's got them playing really well last 5 weeks. It got off to a little bit of a slow start, but the last 5 weeks they've been salty, including the one game they lost against Kansas State, where they came from behind 2 scores in the fourth quarter to take the lead before K-State got them at the end. Buffalo's minus 6.5.
All right, like I said, Navy 7-0 straight up, 7-0 against the spread. Didn't realize they were over every time. Yeah, that added game, if there was a secondary line, they covered that one as well. So Tulane in North Texas, second-year coach Morris. I was kind of critical of this hire. They were tired of winning ugly. They wanted to maybe lose more in an entertaining way. Turned into a bit of a flag football team. North Texas had rough last year, but they put up offensive numbers this year, averaging 41 points a game. They're giving up 38 points a game, so they're going to play their styles. So that was going to be a track meet in that one. Altmaier only 1 interception this year. They said 9 turnover-worthy plays. It depends on who the new analytic advanced stat or, just the traditional one where the touchdown and interception ratio has been very good. There, Charlie, that's an interesting line. It's a little bit of a stinky line where 2 6-1 teams and a home team is catching double digits in a conference game. So
I don't mind telling you that Pitt winning last night kind of helps in the look-ahead spot here a little bit.
Oh, for SMU.
Yeah.
And in Colorado, again, more of a complete team. They were a flag football team much of the time last year and a little bit of this year, but not the case. So they're defending better. They're a little bit more balanced and getting a little bit better protection. Travis Hunter, who's been limited the last couple of weeks and limited, always going to play less than 150 snaps a game. So, but he has been nursing a sore injury. He's expected to increase his snaps this week. So he sat out most of the second half last week. So don't forget our friends at Legacy Title. Chad Reynolds, Legacy Title for all of you real estate closings. 296-0060, full-service title company servicing all of South Louisiana. Fast, friendly, professional service is what you get every time you call 296-0060. Our great staff at Legacy Title: Ashley Donald, Marion Haynes, Adrian Galato, Michael Platt. Legacy Title, 296-0060.
Lock of the Week Friday, presented by Tex Morris and Edward Jones Investments from Rafino's on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Make sure you use Louisiana rice, grown by Louisiana farmers since 1936. Available at most local grocery stores. Supreme Rice.
All right, before we go to my picks, let's go to Paul Stone. Paul Stone Sports. Here he is, one of his 5 picks that he put out this week, available at Sports Bettor's Paradise, where on the YouTube channel and also wherever you find your podcast. Here's Paul Stone talking about Mississippi State game.
You're listening to Sports Bettor's Paradise on the Bet Rivers Network.
Yeah, at 1-6, Jeff Levy's first season at Mississippi State certainly has been a disappointment. But as you mentioned as well, they have shown dramatic improvement in the last 3 games against those ranked opponents that you mentioned, the conference's upper echelon in Texas, Georgia, and Texas A&M this past weekend. First of all, against Texas and Austin a few weeks ago, Mississippi State only trailed the Longhorns by 8 points late in the third quarter. The Longhorns, who are favored by 5 touchdowns pulled away late, pulled that one out 35-13, but Mississippi State gets the money. And then the following week, their following game after a bye, Mississippi State travels to Georgia, getting 33.5 points. They stayed within shouting distance pretty much throughout that game, ultimately fall to the Bulldogs 41-31. And then last week, at home in Starkville against Texas A&M, Mississippi State gets within 7 points, 31-24 against visiting Texas A&M early in the fourth quarter. Can't get any closer. They ultimately lose that game 34-24, but they do get the money. And they also, even though it was marginal, they did outgain the Aggies 367-353. And it hadn't, shown itself yet in the win column, but you mentioned the Bulldogs' true freshman quarterback, Michael Van Buren, a big-time recruit, a one-time Oregon commit. Oregon doesn't just recruit anybody, so that tells you what he was thought of on the national recruiting scene. Actually, the 57th overall recruit in the 2024 ESPN 300. So this is a big-time guy with a strong arm. In his last 2 games against Georgia and Texas A&M, he's thrown for a total of 548 yards against 2 real good defenses there. You look at Arkansas, this is really a game that could, not only because of the caliber of opponent, because of the positioning of the opponent, could be a flat spot for the Razorbacks. Their last 3 games, they've played ranked opponents, Texas A&M, Tennessee, and LSU. Now they travel to Starkville to play Mississippi State, and on deck they have Ole Miss and Texas. So this really shapes up as a difficult spot for the Razorbacks. Plus, Arkansas only 1-8-1 against the spread. Their last 10 is a road favorite. Taylon Green certainly playing with a bum knee. He's at something less than 100%. I don't think their top running back, Jaquindon Jackson's going to play. Give me the Bulldogs, Mississippi State plus 6.5 over Arkansas.
Nothing to show for it as far as wins, overall wins, but it's certainly more competitive, certainly cashing tickets as of late. Their trips to Austin, Athens, and then hosting Texas A&M the last 3 weeks. Not even a sweat for Mississippi State covering those games. Let's get to my 5-pack this week. Went 3-2 last week, 21-19 for the season. Around rankings, they're not good for anything, minus you're bringing up some stinky lines. There's stinky lines in there is this one. So Central Florida started out 3-0. They lost their next 3, but my goodness, they gave Iowa State all they could handle. Now that it's up to 2.5. Get it before it goes to 3. It's, again, unranked team over a ranked team. A lot of times, here it is. It applies here. And BYU, they bum rushed Baylor in Waco, going up 21-0 in the first quarter, then held on to win there. So, but that home field advantage has been big for the Cougars this year. We're going to travel down to Orlando. Hopefully we can have a little bit of a repeat after a big situation last year. An unranked team in Central Florida beat Oklahoma State the last year by a ton. Indiana goes from nice little cute story to legitimate respect. Boy, that confidence is unbelievable for Indiana right now. They lose their starting quarterback. Could not even tell by watching the game last week. Backup comes in, throws 7 for 8, high yards per attempt, over 10 yards an attempt, 2 TDs, and no interceptions as they rout Nebraska. 5-1 Nebraska last week. Think about Nebraska's their problems the last few years. It's one-score games. That was not a one-score game. Indiana go take care of Washington. Unbelievable atmosphere. I think they'll handle it just fine. This Signetti cat is something. Google me. I'll win. You want to talk about like a Dan Campbell going into a losing for organization like the Lions and needed to change their culture. Saban coming in here and saying, "Hey man, what is this deal? Catastrophe syndrome. It's sports. You're supposed to deal with adversity." And this guy is something else. So
he's right too.
He is right. He is a winner, man. It's just unreal. They are. Man, they are shorter odds. They are more of a price to make the college football playoff than the undefeated teams playing at College Station this week. Barely. A&M and LSU both minus 110 at the Queen right now to make it to the playoff. Indiana is minus 120. Oklahoma State, you talk about those two games were identical on Friday and Saturday night. Oklahoma State and BYU, and then Central Florida at Iowa State. The underdog, the visiting team, probably should have won in both the cases. But Oklahoma State is still trying. Ollie Gordon is still running. And now They go on and are catching 7 at Waco. Baylor, they look great, man. There's no doubt last week. But, I mean, are we ready to give a coach that's on a hot seat? They're laying 7 points? Man, I'll take Oklahoma State plus the 7 here. They got their quarterback back as well against BYU. He was impressive and doing just enough. And the defense giving them just enough stops. I think it's a toss-up game. Who went straight up? Give me 7 points in the Pokes down in Waco. So how often do I lay 3 touchdowns? Not often. And you wonder about, because we get in these spreads, do they call off the dogs? Do they let their foot off the pedal? Do they, or they they're just a little disinterested going in? Where they going to get off to a slow start? None of the above when it comes to Miami and Florida State. Don't worry about them coming in disinterested. Don't worry about them taking their foot off the gas when they get going. And how is Florida State going to keep up with the points? Miami should score at will in this one. And you throw in, they lost the last 2 years as well to Florida State. All of this being said, don't worry about all that. So I'm willing to lay the 21 in this one. Not crazy about the line going from 20 to 21 over the last couple of days, but I'll lay it here. Talking about rivalry games, we go to the Little Apple in Kansas State. Chris Kleiman's great. There's no doubt. Kansas is one of our picks last week. Now, they took a couple of turnovers early. They scored on their first 4 possessions, scored touchdowns on their first 4 possessions against Houston. This is a step up in class. I get that. It was 42-14, a breezer. But still, the point spread value is buried with this Kansas team because of their overall record. How many times, Charlie, in those 5 losses, they had the lead in the fourth quarter?
All of them.
It's 10. It's down to 9.5. But that's too many points. And they had some transition issues, losing their offensive coordinator. Daniel's numbers have not been as good, but they are getting better. And I think Kansas is going to give Kansas State all they can handle. Give me the 9.5 in that one. Central Florida minus 2.5. Indiana minus 5.5. Oklahoma State plus 7. Miami minus 21. And Kansas plus 9.5. Don't forget our friends at Total Maintenance. At Total Maintenance, Lucas Ferguson, his great staff. South Louisiana, one of South Louisiana's oldest and largest AC and heating companies. They got New Orleans and Baton Rouge staffs, offices, but they don't cross over at all. Service today every day means same-day service. That's right. You will never sleep hot with Total Maintenance. 24-hour, 7-day emergency service. Factory-authorized dealers for Carrier, American Standard, Daikin, and Rheem products. Generators, we're an authorized dealer for Generac and Cummings generators as well. So in the membership programs, these are smart. This will come in, they'll clean your unit, allowing your unit to run at its maximum efficiency, meaning lower monthly bills. So that's the immediate, but also extending the lifetime of your unit as well. You want to try and it's not fun. You got other things you'd rather spend your money on than replacing your unit more frequently. That takes care of it as well. So we get you in the system and we'll alert you when it's time for your unit to be serviced on a yearly basis. You got more than a ton more to worry about than if it's time for your AC or heating check. Total Maintenance. Again, Total Maintenance in Baton Rouge, 480-1000, 480-1000.
Live at Rufino's Log of the Week Friday, presented by Tex Morris at Edward Jones Investments on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch.
Big celebration going on this weekend at the Pierre Part store. 113 years of doing business down in Pierre Part, and they want to say thank you with a lot of activities going on starting at 11 a.m. tomorrow. First of all, lots of raffles, lots of demos from the participating sponsors, lots of food, 50-cent hot dogs, crawfish stew for only $5, free loaf of bread to the first 113 customers. Bring the kids out. They've got characters and face painting going on over there. You get into the raffle. They're giving away a big 5-gallon jambalaya pot. They're giving away gift baskets from Little Debbie, from Uncle Larry's, a wine tour for 2 at Landry's Vineyard up in Monroe. You're going to like this one, a $100 gift card to Kunas Seafood. That's got to be good, right? Crescent Crown, Bluebell, just Coca-Cola, a ton of stuff that they're going to be giving away tomorrow in Pierre Part. So head on down. And check them out. 113 years in business means they know how to do it right. So head on down with tons of specials and a big celebration at the Pierre Port store tomorrow for 113 years.
It's Lock of the Week Friday, presented by Tex Morris of Edward Jones Investments. Now, back to Live at Lunch from Rufino's on Highland Road on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
All right, don't forget Football Sunday is in town this week. Is in town. We rotate each and every week between the Queen, Baton Rouge, the Queen Casino, the DraftKings Sportsbook here in town, and also the Beau Rivage down in Biloxi. All right, Max, 3-2 last week, 18-22 for the season. Let's get to it.
All right, going to start out with Wake Forest -3 at Stanford. Now, this is a little scary because it's one of these teams crossing multiple time zones. We've seen a little bit of a struggle for those teams, but a lot of them have been worse teams that have crossed the time zones. Wake Forest, Hank Bachmeier at offense has been pretty good for them. They can score a little bit, and I just don't think Stanford can keep up with them here. Stanford's played a very tough schedule. They're coming off of SMU, Notre Dame, Virginia Tech. But Wake Forest, yeah, I just trust them in this spot. They went to UConn last week and won. That was a good win for them. They beat NC State on the road. I think this is a similar type of matchup. I'll lay the 3 with the Demon Deacons.
Stanford has lost 4 in a row and has failed to cover in those 4 games as well.
Vanderbilt +18. I'm sorry, I'm Diego go. You know, he's an underdog. It's an automatic bet for me pretty much. It was like this with New Mexico State. It's been like this, 17.5-point dog to Missouri. They take that game to overtime. 23-point underdog against Alabama. They win outright. 13-point underdog at Kentucky. They win that game outright. They play very slow as well, so if they were to get down, it's hard for them to get down very much. And Texas, with all the benching of Quinn Ewers, I'm worried how that might affect the locker room a little bit. At least those quarterbacks might be feeling the pressure, Ewers especially. So I'll take the points with the Commodores +18. West Virginia +4.5 at Arizona. Arizona shouldn't be laying this many points to anybody. I don't care if they're at home. I don't care if this is another spot where you have a team crossing the whole country. But Arizona, they're just not the same. Noah Fafita has been terrible this year, and if you can shut down McMillan, they have no passing offense whatsoever, no offense really to speak of at all. Garrett Green, look, they've gotten blown out by Iowa State and Kansas State the last 2 weeks, but they still have some life. They beat Oklahoma State. They beat Kansas this year. Arizona's offense, they shouldn't be laying this many points, so I'll gladly take 4.5 with the Mountaineers.
Fafita more interceptions and touchdowns this season.
Yeah, it's been ugly for him. Miami, Florida -21. I'll agree with you here on this one, Jimmy. Chris Felica, the Bear, put out a stat. There have been 3 times where there have been 20-plus favorites, 20-plus or more favorites in this game, in this series between Florida State and Miami. They've all won by 24 or more. When they have a chance to blow out one another, they do that. And just think, Cam Ward's in the Heisman conversation as well, so they're going to want to run up the score if they can. Florida State, dead man walking. They're going into a really tough spot here. I'll lay the 21 with the Hurricanes.
The Bear, been on the show, a friend of the show, time to time. Miami alum.
Yeah, that is true. That is fair. But he puts out all these Bear bites each week. And finally, my lock of the week is tonight, actually. I've been 2-0 on Friday night games, so I got to get something going. And I'm going to go with Boston College +7.5, hosting Louisville. This is a spot game. Louisville coming off of a very difficult defeat, hosting Miami last week. That place was rocking. They have a bit of a tough, scoop and score that was ruled off. Cam Ward apparently had his arm going forward. And next week, they go to Clemson. So this is the ultimate sandwich spot for Louisville. All they're trying to do here going up to Boston College is get a win. And they're laying 7.5. That's way too many points. BC, you're buying on a bit of a low. They've had a couple rough weeks after a really good start to the season. I'll go with Bill O'Brien and Boston College +7.5.
There are sandwich spots, and then there is this DiMartino's roast beef provolone light mayo and a sesame seed lightly toasted French bread. Between Clemson and
Miami.
Between the 2 top teams in the ACC. That is a great sandwich spot tonight. All right. I'll be peeking the score while I'm doing a PA for senior night at EHS.
Uh-oh.
So there you go. I'm on that one. So good stuff. In UNLV Boise, I like the over and I like UNLV. It's going to be the rowdiest crowd, the best atmosphere for a UNLV game ever.
Somehow
Open a terrace. West Monroe's coming.
It's okay, man. You got to do what you got to do.
Somehow the under's taking money from 64.5 to 63. I like the over as well.
Game day tomorrow at 1:30. Thanks to the folks at Ruffino. Stay tuned for Hunt Palmer. It's A&M week on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.